We just did it. What?
You better come on.
Look at that. It's not popping up.
It's not coming up.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Crystal Bell clack. Crystal Bell clack.
She was the first one in.
I just get it?
Yeah.
All right, come on, y'all. Come in. Let me see who's in here. And help me to know that you're, hey, Diamond, Chris Lay Music, Jay Hank, Worshiping for Life, Tanya, hello from Jersey. Diamond, I'm so excited. Hey, Pastor Marvin, Petty Teddy. Pastor Marvin, I love you.
You should have just invited.
Well, I got all these echoes. Mute y'all phones, because y'all can hear me. It's a bunch of confusion.
I didn't make it.
Birmingham is still climbing.
That baby's here.
It's still climbing. Hey, Vicky, this is going to be the greatest year of your life.
Hey, Vicky.
Somebody said I finally got in. I enjoy your scope. Memphis checking in. Fort Worth. I waited up for this. Robert, you can't sing, so why you waiting?
Oh, bro.
You a prayer warrior.
I mean, if we're going to be
Apostle Mike is like, I'm up in here. Seattle.
My god sister and her fiance watching too.
Okay, good. You want to learn to sing? Marcus, this is not for that. Get out. Pastor Kendrick Oakley, good to see you. Let me know where you're from. Isaac Watson, I love you, beloved. God is good. Didn't I tell y'all mute them phones? It sound like a bunch. All right, let's do this. You can if you want. But here, let's do this. We're at 808 people. Hey, Prophetess Keisha. Hey, you Ryan, you in Jamaica honeymooning. Go get your wife pregnant. Get off of here. You used to lead worship in a past life. It's really past then. Let it go. No, I'm kidding. This is going to be significant to everybody because we're going to be talking about worship and intimacy with God, period. So let's do it. I saw Creed. Oh, Timotheus, I love you. I love you so much. All right, these numbers are not where I want them to be. There is 870 people on here currently in under 3 minutes. I'd like to get up to about 3,000. So let's go. Share your Periscope followers. I have given people permission to share this on YouTube. So go ahead and do that. Teddy Scott, good to see you, man. So go ahead, share this with your followers. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I'm a worship pastor at a Methodist church. Welcome so much. We've got something for you too. Come on, Emory Diggs, good to see you. Huntsville, Alabama. That's my baby brother's hometown. Tina, you made it. Come on. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Come on, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Pastor Melvin Cross, I love you so much. Reporting in for duty. Let's go. Fredericksburg, Virginia. Come on. You're a worship pastor for Elijah Muhammad. Well, you may not learn much tonight. Hey, baby Bishop. How are you? Liz, good to see you. Prophetess Keisha says she can sing when the anointment is on her. Have mercy, Father. Lord, forgive her. It's 1,000. Good. Do you oversee any churches in North Carolina? Plenty. Natasha just asked if you cut your hair. No, not for another 10 years. It's in a ponytail. All right. It said about 1,000 in the room. Good. Let's get ready to go. I'm going to introduce my guest tonight. I'm so excited to be here. We are eating and we are fellowshipping. I'm going to eat once I'm done. Here's something about me that you guys don't know is I cannot eat. My church is located on its website, www.allnationswa.com. I cannot eat before I preach or teach. It gets, put your washboard up, Emory Diggs. It gets weird. But I'm going to talk to you about worship tonight, worship culture. The Lord has spoken to me some amazing things. Knight Brand, how are you? Thank you for your faithfulness, man of God. So we're going to do some introductions real quick. All right, I'm going to introduce to you these special people. 2 of them are still on the way. All right, so I'm going to go around a part of this group scope. All right, everybody, this is Kenneth Knoll.
Everybody.
Say hi to Kenneth Knoll. Do that.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Say hello.
Hey. Jamal. What's up, Diamond? Hey, Lethea.
Prophet Keisha call you a milk dud. All right.
Hey, y'all.
So Dr. Kenneth Michael Knoll is the worship leader. Yeah, he's a Morehouse guy. He's the worship leader for our 8:30 worship team, and he sings. He's very educated. That's Woody Vereen. That's my other soldier.
brother. Yes, sir.
So yeah, Woody. Kenny is
Jamal,
going to
shut up.
help us with this subject of worship. He's a preacher, and he knows and he sings his face to pieces. So he's going to be with us tonight. Scoot over.
Ben is the only one with his.
Okay, come on, Bible. This is Ben. Now, you may not know or recognize Ben's face, but I bet you know his sound. Let me say it. Thank you. Okay. You may know his sound. This is my lead guitarist, and Ben is an amazing minstrel, but low-key, he's an intercessor. He is also a man of God. He flows with our prophetic teams, which we'll get into that, why all of our musicians need to do that and be able to hear the Lord. But he is a powerful musician. Ben is also a pianist.
Yes.
He is in school for music because we don't just believe you should take your natural talent and go public with it. He is a professional in what he's doing, and he's a great guy. So, are you on Periscope?
Yes.
Tell him where to follow you.
Not right now. You can follow me in February when I get off this social media fast. Cause we stuck. I'm stuck. So yeah.
He's off of social media right now because y'all are
He
a
gonna promote it in
distraction.
February.
I will promote it because it's the spirit of this age. No. Okay. Now, here's my next one. This is a very important man to me.
Praise the name of the Lord.
This is Apostle Raleigh Theon Mayberry.
Everybody, God bless you. It's good to be in the house on the set tonight to talk about worship.
Everybody knows him. He shares my heart for worship. He is an amazing worshiper. I think we both have a worship history. And Apostle BJ headed up our music for years before we grew and expanded and got help, and we're still growing and expanded. We've actually got dozens of musicians and dozens of singers and producers and all kind of people that I'm bringing into the music department at our church. But Apostle Raleigh is no joke. He is really anointed.
Yes, Lord. I love worship. I'm excited to talk about this on tonight because I think worship is an important aspect of the life of the believer. So this is going to be an awesome time in the Lord.
Yep, so he's going to be a part of this. Here's another favorite person right here in all the world. Now here, this guy, I think he's still cheating us. He's given us a lot, but this guy, listen to this right here. Yeah, Marcus, go, your anniversary. Now, this guy right here is also a part of the All Nations experience. He is a part of the brilliance behind what you guys experienced at World Changers Summit. He is also a part of the experience that undergirds a lot of your visitations, a lot of your deliverances, a lot of your prophetic words. He is the primary support other than the intercessors behind them. He is also a prophetic leader. This is our minstrel. This is the chief minstrel.
What's going on?
Clarence Scott. You know him as Reed.
What's up?
Reese.
What's up?
I call him Reed. So
Love
this
you
is
too.
Reese.
Who's that?
Reese heads all of our music. Y'all see him? They are talking. Everybody
What's
know
going
him.
on? Hey, bro. What's going on?
Clarence, the man. That's
Jesus.
Woody Vereen.
Woody, what's
Courtney
up?
Barclay.
What up? What up? What up?
Yeah, he's a man of God. Yeah, Reese is anointed. Reese knows how to move the hand of God unlike any other minstrel I've met in my life, and I'm not playing. Now, he pretends like he's just a musician, but Reese moves powerfully in the prophetic, powerfully in prayer, powerfully in fasting. Reese is a man of deliverance. So this is the sound.
All right, Periscope.
You excited?
Yes, sir. Excited.
So
about
we're
tonight.
not just going to be talking about labels and stuff, are we?
No, not at all.
Oh, we're going to talk about that some too, right?
Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit, but we just want to pour into you on tonight what God wants to do through music, not just through labels and doing all of those other fancy things. We'll get into that, but not tonight, not at all.
Hey, Prophet Marcus, you're being petty, so I'm going to confirm it. I did cook for all of them.
Oh,
And it was
and
good.
it was good. It was good.
I made seafood nachos with cheese and guacamole and salsa, and I got fruit salad up there that I made from scratch with fruit dip. So yeah, I did cook. Now, this is a man of God, and I'm going to say this: he cannot sing. He is not musical.
No impartations for you today, man.
No, he can't sing. This is a man of God. He's a powerful man of God. We're working on him. And but Chris is anointed. This is Chris Williams. He's a powerful prophet of the Lord that we believe has been called by God to our house. And I think that Chris is a man of the presence of God, to be very honest with you. So look, this is Chris Williams. He's a man of the presence of God. Everybody say hello to Chris. Say something.
Hey, God bless you guys. I don't know what to say. God bless.
How you a prophet and don't know what to say? What is the Lord saying?
Seek his face.
So Chris is going to help us tonight with some revelation. And Chris is a heart son of mine, and I'm glad to have him here. All right, so Chris is going to help.
God bless you guys. I can't sing, but
Don't try either.
it's not on me. I'm not gonna lie. It's
But he
not-
worships,
I am a worshiper. I do love to worship. I'm a worshiper.
and he prophesies.
I do prophesy.
So, yeah. All right, I'm not done. Did you think I was done? I'm not done. And two of the other ones are on their way as well. So I'm just introducing everybody first. You can fast forward when you're ready. Yeah, he is an intercessor. Prophetess Keisha said intercessor. She's reminding you of also who you are. Glory to God. All right. This is a man of God who is also a prophet. I think in our church, we actually got quite a few singing prophets now. Oh, crap. We didn't have a lot of them. It went from... So this man of God was actually the first worship leader of our 8:30 service, and he has been resting, and he has been focusing on the other components of his ministry, and we are so excited for him. I spent the day with him today, and I was expressing to him how touched I was to learn of how many people blame him for meeting God and meeting purpose and meeting destiny. And so I've heard about 4 different stories of different people who are in purpose and destiny and know the gifts of the Spirit and the baptism of the Holy Ghost because of him. And so we have decided, glory to God, as a family, that he is worth it. So this is Jaleel Poole. He's a prophet of God.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
But he also can sing his face out. Jaleel got like this piercing, I don't know how to describe it. It's like something in the lower part of his voice that screams deliverance.
Yeah, it's there. Priest Nation, praise the Lord.
Are you excited
Hey.
about worship today?
Yeah, I am. I'm excited. Oh, there go my mama. Hey, mama. Here's what.
excited?
Thank you, Prophetess Keisha
So
and
excited.
everybody else. His whole.
You excited? Pay attention to what I'm asking, not these
Oh,
comments.
okay. Yeah. What'd you ask again?
You excited about worship?
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
You're excited about this
These are
discussion?
some great treasures and jewels to be sitting with.
All right. All right. Now this one, glory to the God of the Bible. Now he said he felt a rebuke. That's because he's haughty. This one is actually one of the writers out the group. A lot of them write, but he's a tremendous writer. And yeah, he does, right? Everybody, he's a writer, but he is also a prophet of God. And he's a singer par excellence. This is a part of he's a vocal coach for 2 of our worship teams at church. And he's getting ready for a lot more responsibility in the place of grace. His name is Darius Brown. He prophesies with me. He writes. He's actually one of the best singers in our entire church.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Hey Ricky, how are you? This is Darius Brown.
Hola.
Say hello. What do you think about this scope?
I think this is awesome, and it's much needed. It's really, really needed because folks don't know where to go, and they don't know how powerful worship is neither. So I'm excited. I'm just excited to see what's going to come out.
All right, good. So we're going to go ahead and get in this discussion. You may hear my doorbell ring because this is very organic. We didn't rehearse it. We didn't plan it. It's just me getting together with some men to talk about worship. And of course, Darius Brown is an amazing voice and drenched in oil. That's what somebody just said. Oh, Jesus. This is going to be, is my worship team made of men only? Ironically, all of my leaders are men. It's the first time in the history of our 11-year-old church that all of my music leaders are men, and I'm keeping it that way. No shade to the women, but I'm keeping it that way for a while. Our worship teams are large. They're filled with men and women, but the leadership itself, primarily of the worship department, is men, right? So on the way is going to have Isaac Tarver. He's the worship leader of our 11:30 service. And I've also got Ryan Booker is coming to be with me tonight. And they are all members of All Nations Worship Assembly of Chicago, where yours truly happens to be the founder and the overseer. All right, so let's go. I'm going to start this discussion. Yeah, Ryan Booker is a prophet. We know. We're gonna start the Prophetess Keisha wanted to put that out there. We know because he leaves his body in worship, and he goes and visits other places, and then when he jumps up, he goes to the third heaven, and then he comes back down. All right, so we're gonna talk and just open up general discussion really quickly about what we feel like God is doing with worship, and I'm going to start with this. A couple of months ago, the Lord spoke to me very precisely, not even in a discussion about music, not in a discussion about psalmistry, not in a discussion about any of that. And the Lord said these words to me. He said, son, all of my next actions in the planet are going to arrive on the wings of worship. And when he spoke to me, I really felt strongly, hey, Candace, make that money, girl. I really felt strongly that he was talking about every facet of the world. So he was not just talking about the church, but God helped me see that what's giving him access to the affairs of the planet, be it in politics, be it in the church, be it in cities around the world, what was coming to our planet was going to arrive on the next wave of worship, and that it would be really different from what we have seen before. So I'm gonna switch real quick to these gentlemen and have them tell you what they feel like. Anybody got something similar from the Lord? What y'all think? What is the Lord saying? I know you got something because you always talk about worship.
I think where we are now, God is shifting the sound of worship, and I think the sound of worship, we become too familiar with the contemporary sound. And of course, I think the Jesus cultures, the hill songs, that vein of worship, it sustained us for this season. But I think that where we're going, there's another sound that has not been recorded and documented yet. And it's a sound that's coming from the encounter with God. And I believe that what God is doing is God is taking us into deep, intensive seasons of fasting and consecration. I believe that there's some churches that are getting ready to go on fasting where people are going to take like 40 days and 50 days and 60 days where there's consecration coming to the house of God. But the sound that's coming to the house of God is going to be so right, where people are going to say, where did this sound come from? And so I think it's going to be very much different than what we know it as today.
I agree. I think that is so where worship is headed. I was thinking the other day about worship, and one of the things that I was thinking about was how when a singer has not really encountered the Lord, it's impossible for them to achieve worship. And I think that worship flows from encounters with God, and there's a lot of singers and musicians who have never had an experience with God, and I think it affects it. So the consequence of that is that I think we all agree that there's a lot of singers who still don't know worship, even if they're really good. Do y'all agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I think I feel like we are moving into a time where God is bringing a restoration of purity in worship, right? Because we've come to the place where, like when the scriptures talk about in 2 Kings 17, where they fear the Lord, but they worship their own idols. And we've come to the place where we worship our gifts, our talents, and our own abilities, and we have strayed away from the heart of worship and the real focus of worship. Worship is the heart of deliverance. We underestimate the power of worship, and so I think we are moving into a place where God is bringing a restoration of purity and focus in worship, where we are not scattered all over the place, but we're focused on reaching the heart of the Father.
Can you in a congregation context, I don't think that a congregation itself can call itself focused with a frail worship life. Absolutely. Like if a congregation, no matter how the size, has no value system for quality time with God corporately, I don't know that congregation is going to be focused enough to achieve what God wants it to achieve in this city. Is it been you guys' experience that most churches still don't have a revelation of, let me say this, most inner city churches, because you do find some suburban, rural expressions of churches, but I don't know many ethnic or urban churches that have an expansive revelation of worship. That's just my experience. Do you guys agree or no?
No, absolutely. Yeah.
What has been your experience like in different churches with their value system for worship? Is it there? Is it not?
Well, I'll say that it's really low, and in some parts that is not there at all. I think they've taken worship and just the music department as just being something as a show, not something being used as a tool to actually get to God, understand who He is, get new revelation, prophesy, and do deliverance. So I think in general, the music department or the worship department has been labeled just one of those things of just, okay, well, hey, you know what, we're gonna make my show work. We're gonna do this. Okay, keyboardist, you do that. Don't do anything else. Drummer, do this, do that. Don't do anything else. When there is so much more to just those things.
Right. I mean, and it is agreed that music has always been a real strong anchor in most church expressions.
Oh, yeah.
Like Pentecostal, Baptist, no matter what the stream is. Music, people generally don't mind investing in music. Even like I could name a couple of churches in the city whose music departments were dying, and they contracted known perverts to come in and train their music department and stay for a while with no examination or so. Do we agree that one of the primary things that's missing is a general revelation of worship, period?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That and actually having no heart, I would say.
Yeah. So is it possible for a congregation to have a culture of worship if they don't have a leader that has a revelation of it?
No. I would say no.
Okay.
Reason being, you see a lot of churches nowadays, you kind of only do what the head does. So if the head doesn't understand worship or have a deep relationship with God, I mean, it's only going to fall to the congregation. Most congregations around here, they usually flow in this entertaining, make me feel good type of way, and it's really introduced by the headship. It's in honesty to just gain numbers. They're really not concerned about the other facets of worship. They don't know that worship can heal.
So in your experience, how many of you, like pre All Nations, have had worshiping leadership?
No.
Honestly, seriously.
No.
I would say with revelation, I have.
You've had one.
I've had one major revelation. I think one thing that's a problem now is based upon the context, and I think we use the word worship very loosely. I don't even think it's worship.
Because what most churches mean is a slow part of the song.
Absolutely. Music is attractive, but worship is not attractive. I think if we go to the root word of what, like English, the English meaning for the word worship, which is worthship, if we go back to understanding what that really means in this context of worship, then we'll understand who we're worshiping. And I think the problem in the church is we're attracted to music, but we're not attracted to worship or honoring the God who's worthy. So
have you ever been under a leader pre All Nations, Elder BJ, that had a revelation of worship? Now, and what I mean by that is there are people who have worship moments where they've experienced it before, like if God's glory or presence comes in. But a revelation of it is an understanding of it, a defense of it by the scriptures, and the ability to explain it, the ability to provoke it and to invite worship and cause it to happen. Have you had a leader that was that skillful with creating a tapestry that broad for a church to come into worship intently?
I have not. My past leaders have all been focused on creating a production that would be good for the people and pleasing to the people, which I think is where we are today. We have gotten good with fabricating a sound in an attempt to reach a God that most of our leaders do not know. And so my past leaders have never placed a major emphasis on worship, the heart of worship, and understanding of worship. And to see a leader demonstrate real worship is something that I have not experienced.
Okay, Reese. You have played for a number of churches. What is your experience with pastors in worship?
That I guess they're focused more on pastoring, not more.
What do you mean?
Just leading the people, not necessarily worship.
So even in your partnerships, when people say, "Hey, come and play for this, come and play for that," what is your experience with people and their understanding of worship?
It's very little. It's basically focused on the some of the acts and just tradition. There's nothing, much more than that.
Give me a percentage.
Let's see.
Because you're talking from the perspective of a musician.
Just a musician.
Yeah.
For me, I would say I would give it about a grade 80 of the churches that I play for, as far as a percentage, and experiencing something like that.
Right. Yeah. So Chris, you're a church boy. You're like 4th generation Pentecostal, right?
Yes, sir.
What was your introduction to worship? Did you have one? Was it something that you were trained in, or was it something you kind of bumped into in church experiences?
I felt like it was more so something that I bumped into through church experiences, and then when I came into All Nations, the revelation of worship was unfolded before me.
Right.
However, I came from a Pentecostal background, and church was considered, when you had church and when you asked individuals how was church was good. Church was considered a good shout, a good bump, a good jump.
Was it your experience in the Pentecostal tradition that the apex, the zenith, the ultimate objective of the church was a praise?
It was. That was the ultimate objective, and I feel like praise for a lot of people, which is something I've experienced, was something that people did to cope with their actual reality.
Certainly.
As opposed to seeking soul change, which is something that is obtained through worship, through prayer, through repentance.
Right. So my experience is pretty much the same, where I have never been I wasn't a part of a whole bunch of churches, but I was born in a family church, and I didn't really have a revelation of worship. And so the first principle that we're opening up on is going to be the general consensus of the musical council, is that it is impossible, both logistically, theologically, scientifically, for a church to have a culture of worship and to produce worshiping Christians if that leadership does not have a working understanding of worship, and worship as in what it achieves, where it began, what it does, how to explain it, and how to defend it. So there is the bulk of our problem, and the foundation of our discussion is that it is impossible of leading a worshiping church with a non-worshiping leader. And that's both by principle and that is both by practice. Worship has a lot of nuances, and one of them is principle and practice. In worship, in order to achieve its full potential, you've got to understand worship by principle, which is the theology of it, what the Bible says about it, various terms that explain it throughout the scriptures. But then principle without practice is lifeless. So you've got to have those opportunities in service, in your moments, to have those principles put to use in practice, which means that you've got to create opportunity in services for people to organically experience the presence of God, either through the song or whatever the issue is. But the bulk of our challenge right now in America is our leaders do not know worship. All right, so my other soldier just got here. I'm about to introduce you to him. This is Isaac Tarver. Y'all may know him as Fire and Glory.
Yes, sir. That's him.
That's Fire and Glory. He's a worship leader of our 1130 group. So he has he was practically, he may have the advantage that all of us don't have. I think he was literally born into worship.
Yes,
he his whole family understands worship. I don't think that was anybody else's experience in here. So he has a different angle on this. What do you think, since you're the one that's going, what do you think is the challenge right now in a general way? Yes, he's related to Phil Tarver. That's his son. What do you think is the general challenge with worship right now in the body of Christ in general?
As a whole, I would say intimacy. Mm-hmm. The African American church lacks a level of closeness that I believe
because
that
of where
God is
they've been in
calling
their
for.
journey, or because of the why? That's so profound.
It's
why?
probably it would more than likely be due to you have the fatherlessness that's in the homes. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of what people lack the ability to be close and want to be close because of the African American persuasion is so scared, pretty much. Afraid of people, afraid of betrayal, afraid of being dropped, afraid of being abandoned. So it's hard to kind of chase and grab hold to what we're supposed to know as a father in God, because we don't know what fatherhood or having a father or being fathered looks like. So
and closeness is really the essence of worship.
Yeah.
So it is impossible for people who has not learned to value closeness, period, to understand why worship should be a part of their life. See, when we started this, our numbers went down to 944, so I can tell we've got some challenges. Seriously, when I started dealing with them on non-worshiping preachers, and now we're dealing with the issue of closeness. So it's a challenge, right? So is it our general consensus that before we even have the first discussion about music, have we made the conversation about worship too musical, or is it that the conversation about worship should not begin with music?
I think it shouldn't even begin with music, because if you study like the law of the first mention, the first time worship is mentioned in the Bible is in Genesis 22, and that had to do with sacrifice. It had nothing to do with music. It had nothing to do with instruments.
Come on, scripture.
I think honestly, if I'm gonna just be honest and kind of funny, I think like singing make everything better, right?
Right.
Like people sing in the shower,
Right.
people sing on their way to work, people who can't sing on their way to work.
Right.
So I mean, singing makes everything better, but worship is really about sacrifice. And so that's why the music kind of helps people, you know, you can sing your soul into subjection. You can sing your soul you can sing your will into alignment with God. But worship does not start with music. It never has, it never will. Worship is more of a journey rather than it being musical, which is why Abraham couldn't worship God at his house. He had to go to a mountain to get there. Worship is about elevation, and and I think the reason why the difference between worship and praise is praise brings God to you because God inhabits the praises of His people. But worship brings you to God, which is why it's about elevation.
Come over there and throw this phone at your face.
Which is why everybody travels to God. So I think that's really the issue. We made it too musical instead of making it what it really was.
Yeah, because it's like even now when we're dealing with, my opinion is that this is the most talented generation in the history of America. There is such a emphasis on talent, and it's really true. I mean, I think something happened probably about 40 years ago where God just took a handful of ability and threw them plain clear across the planet, because we have more talented singers than ever before. Even our musicians back in like the 70s, they were one-dimensional. Now it's very easy to get musicians who master several musician things, and then they are moving in production. So it's a very talented season. But having said that, I think it's kind of still slanted, because we do still have more musically gifted and musically innate people that know more about music than they don't know about worship. And the point is, even with people's aspiration to and in the industry, praise and worship is an actual genre of music. And I don't exactly know what that genre, like what people say when they use it as a category. This is praise and this is worship. With the exception, of course, of stuff like from IHOP and maybe Bethel or Jesus Culture, or I don't know any African American people that consider their genre worship.
I think they just consider they'll just call it like CCM, or just put it in that category.
What is CCM? Contemporary Christian. Okay. So let's go into this. What is the price the church is paying, whether they are aware of it or not? Yeah, McDowell's doing a great job. He'll be with me this year in June. What is the price that worship, or the price that the absence of a culture of worship, what prices are we paying that we don't realize we're paying because worship is not a priority in the church?
Lack of progression and lack of resource.
Why do you say that?
Because, again, worship is a journey, and worship brought Abraham to the mountain. And
provision was there.
Right. In fact, Jehovah Jireh was actually the name of the mountain. So worship is a place of provision in the first place. So if you don't know worship If you don't understand the necessity of worship, you'll never reach provision. You'll never reach.
Ben, I'm more ordained you in the
You don't play that guitar no more.
Right. So with the lack of real worship and with the lack of an understanding of worship, you lack resource and you lack progression.
What price are we paying in the church for not making worship the priority in our culture?
I think we're simply lacking the hand of God in conjunction to miracle signs and wonders. When before Elijah performed the miracles, even though he was a prophet of God, he was in the presence of God. He activated.
He said, "Before the Lord, whom I stand."
Right. He activated the hand of God through his worship, and I think a lot of churches are non-worshiping churches, and because there's a lack of worship, that's not a lot of signs and wonders. There's not a lot of people being healed of cancer, HIV, things of that sort, and as what we're supposed to do as New Testament believers.
Amen.
I believe a lot of what we're lacking, what's being missed is there's a lot of deliverance that's not taking place.
Certainly.
We know David sat that when Saul was vexed with the spirit, he called for David to come and worship, and that worship is what caused demons to leave. We have people in our church whose testimony is, I sat under a level of worship that caused me to be made free. And there are a lot of churches, because they don't get to places and realms in the spirit and the atmosphere and in the presence of God. There are people who come to church one way and leave sometimes worse, just because they don't get an opportunity to get into a place of that, like we said, that intimacy and that closeness with God, where he can actually start to deal. Because worship opens up spaces in glory where God's hand starts to move and he starts to actually deal with stuff that you may not necessarily have the mental capacity to deal with within yourself. So I believe there's a lot of deliverance that's not happening
because of that.
Just because of that.
Yeah. I think it's a sad day in the church as well, is because the church always looks for the worship leader and the worship team to usher them into the presence of God, which keeps the people of God, those of them who are not on the platform, keeps them in this place of not seeking for a relationship, because they think that the worship leader and the worship team have to have the relationship for them in order to usher them. But just to set some worship leaders free, it is not the worship leader's job to usher anybody into the presence of God. Jesus was the ultimate worship leader. He was the one, after he died and his blood was shed, that veil was torn and all of us had access. So the idea is, the worship leader's objective is to remind the people that they still have access. And so I don't even think we should be called worship leaders. We should be called worship assistants. It's because the truth is Jesus was the ultimate leader. Now we're just assisting him into reminding people that they have access. And so now the problem is the churches, they come in the corporate setting, and they think that it's the worship leader's objective or the worship team's objective to usher them into the place where they should have been all week or all year or all month. And so people don't have a relationship because they think everybody else is supposed to have it for them.
What do you think is the price? Because we have to be missing so much because we have not had preachers to take on the pioneering obligation of teaching and preaching and discipling men into worship.
It's really the absence of real signs and wonders.
Right.
We have made the church like a movie theater. So your tithes and your offering is your admission price, and then you come in and you sit and you watch a good show, but you remain unchanged, you remain unaffected, your soul remains the same.
Now this is all pre-music.
Right. This is just what we've reduced the church to, and the mark of the ministry of the founder of the church was signs and wonders.
Come on, he is the head.
So how do we build something without the model of Jesus Christ, which is signs and wonders? And I think that we've gotten away from his heart, his mind, and his concerns. I think worship deals with the heart of God, it deals with the mind of God, and it deals with what's important to God. And so when you subtract that and pull that away from the equation, then you lose a whole lot of stuff that comes along with it. So signs and wonders, deliverance ministry, healing ministry. People come in sick and afflicted, and they leave out sick and afflicted. People come in bound by sin. People come in with all types of chains and fetters and burdens, and they leave out sometimes with even more chains and fetters and burdens than they came in with. So we made the church a place where people can come and be comfortable resting in their current state, and nothing about them is forced forced to change because we've removed our hearts from the heart of God. So we're no longer connected to heaven. We're connected to a good show, creating a good sound, but we're no longer connected to the changing power or what has the ability to move us.
I think the ultimate thing, as I'm thinking about this discussion, this is important, and I actually like this because these are all my soldiers. But I think the ultimate, I mean, there's a lot of expenses that we are incurring as the body of Christ because of the absence of this mentality. But I think the ultimate price that we have paid is that without a culture of worship, the church really has no goal. It's almost like so the way we teach glory, for example, is, and glory is a lot of things, but the way we teach the glory of God is not like it is the goal of worship. And Jesus Christ is the objective of worship. He's the goal. So if people don't teach or understand that worship has an end or a point to get to, then whatever we're supposed to get and or become as a result of getting to that point is largely absent, vacant, and defunct. So there can be no transformation into Christ-likeness, which is the highest call of every believer. There is no real challenge in sonship, which is the ability to relate to God as Father. Because if Jesus Christ is the goal of worship, but that's not clear, there is no target in worship, that we're not pressing for or aiming for him, then people don't really understand how to enjoy the riches and the rewards that come from the reach to the presence of the Lord. So if Jesus Christ is the goal of worship, then because we don't have a target, we now have sentenced ourselves to a life of cycles, which praises is not enough to help us cope with. Notice that churches that put an overemphasis on praise, because praise has a place, but churches that overemphasize praise are mainly people that are only filled with those that are in cycles, either of sin, of bondage, of failure. So where a person only has a cycle, then praise is the way that they cope with that cycle. It takes worship to bring a change. Nobody changes through praise. People are reminded by praise. They are brought to the point of worship by praise, but praise doesn't change anything. Now, it does have the ability to lift heaviness off of you, but your condition will remain the same until you become a worshiper. So by intelligent deduction, it takes a worship culture to even put the context to what praise is. So without being a worshiping house, you really have actually mutated and perversely defined praise. We've made it about, if you don't understand worship and that Jesus is the goal of worship, then you don't know why you're shouting or yelling or boasting or halowing or tehillah or any of the things that you do as an expression of praise, because worship is the broader objective and canopy, and praise is a piece of being able to get to the worship experience. So I think the ultimate price that the church is paying is that she still has not met the founder, the head, the objective, because it takes the veil to be rent to get to where he is and for him to get to where we are and to bring about a change. So do we all agree without a worshiping culture, change is impossible? Whoa, that's a heavy statement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because worship, the place of worship, is where everything that combats your loyalty to the one that you're worshiping comes to the surface. And so I think we shy away from worship in our churches because we are forced to look at ourselves. So worship is like a mirror that exposes everything that is really in your heart, your mind, and your soul that's against God and that's against the nature of God. So worship forces you to deal with that dark nature that's going to keep you from getting close to God. We've learned good language in churches. We've learned good lingo. It's like the scripture, when the scripture talks about they worship me with their mouths, they worship me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And so we've learned how to come in and say all the right things and get all the right movements to tickle our emotions, but we still remain far from God. And you're right, that is where the change occurs. So worship is a place where everything that is in you that is against the person that you are worshiping or the thing that you are worshiping is brought to life.
So are y'all telling me that a church that has no worshiping culture can only see different variations of the same?
Absolutely.
Because change, the power of change is submission to God through worship. And so if that is absent, then we have a real crisis before we get to music, and that is, if the church is built by and survives on praise, then it means that praise has become the expression of the content, the comfortable. Because praise requires no seek.
Right. To no degree. Yeah. This is
praise requires no search.
Yeah.
Praise requires none of that. Elder Ben just laid it on down. Yeah. So that's interesting.
Another thing praise does not require is openness. There's a level of the intimacy, the transparency, that intimacy that allows God to actually come in and do work. Is that openness that you have to even present for that change to even come. So there are a lot of churches who aren't seeing people change because people are still afraid to open up and even allow God to do work.
I mean, the scripture does say repent, therefore times of refreshing may come from His presence.
Come on.
So you have to literally lay down everything that you've.
So even the scripture is clear that it requires you laying something down to get in His presence.
Yeah, and then we're not.
Well, bing the heck oh. Powerful point.
Something that we sacrifice or miss as a culture because we don't worship is the being refreshed. So we have a lot of Christians who are being burnt out.
Right.
A lot of people are being mentally weighed down because they simply can't get into His presence because they haven't repented. We haven't turned from the old traditional ways of what we do or how we seek after God.
That's so profound.
Old season, you have to repent and lay that down before you can get Him into a new environment with Him to be refreshed back.
So what you're saying, prophet of God, is what the Bible is saying, which is clear to me. There was never worship without the laying down of something, some form of sacrifice, expression. So is a large part of why we're not singing in the church is that we no longer desire the laying of something down?
Yeah, the earmark of a worshiper is decision making. You can't.
It is the expression of the decided, huh?
Yeah, it's
good, googly muggly.
The expression of the decided. You can't be a worshiper and not make a decision to.
Wait a minute, so are y'all saying that the church is indecisive? Y'all saying the American church has indecision? Can you hear it in the preaching? Can you see it in the services? Can you see it on TV? Is it on the award shows? You mean to tell me the American church still ain't made a decision? You mean Elijah been talking to them since Mount Carmel and we still ain't come over?
My God.
Whoa! That could be a major reason, that because when a man is not decided God, it is frivolous for him to, he's not going to meet him. You know what I'm saying? He that cometh to God must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek them. So if the church has become a place where decision is not needful, then they cannot know intimacy. Or value it, or understand it, or experience it. So maybe the part is that we don't have a revelation of decidedness, which is the expression of worship.
Right. And if you don't have a value for His presence, you have no reason to lay down what you have.
Yeah.
You can come out of His presence changed.
Yeah.
Why would you lay down a chaotic life for something that possibly can't get you anywhere? So if you don't have a value system for His presence, for His glory, for seeing His face, for just being close to Him, then it wouldn't mean anything to you to lay down what you have as a momentary glory or momentary riches for a God that you don't know.
I think you said something about closeness. Let's ask a controversial question. If bondage is something everybody has in common, everybody in the human race, the Bible says we were all shapen in iniquity, and we were all, the Bible says, while we were yet in sin. So that's Jew, Gentile. Sin is the common background of everybody. Can you be set free in a non-worshiping culture? Is it possible to be free from bondage, inwardly, externally, totally, if you are in an environment that does not value the presence of God?
I don't believe so, because it's in the presence of the Lord that we find the fullness of joy and right hand pleasures, those pleasures being those freedoms. I don't believe that the deliverance that the church needs and that the people of God really need, the freedom that we really need and are called to come into, happens outside of worship. I don't believe it happens at all.
I kind of slightly disagree.
Only because
there have been times in services where worship has not necessarily been the culture, but God has came in. And that's the thing of a religious church.
So you're saying whosoever came up call upon the name of the Lord.
Exactly. And
but the thing with that is you would have to have follow-up.
Yeah,
something
that's where the problem is.
The thing is bondage. What
exactly.
if it hit face?
Now, God would certainly come in, but there would be no substance to keep them or to sustain them.
So have you been set free?
Yeah. So, but what I think freedom can come. I mean, I think freedom is certainly a process. But you don't have freedom to stay. I mean, right? You don't have that anointing that allows you to get
taste it if it's not a worshiping culture.
Certainly, yeah, you won't experience it, not at all, because that's the process.
Because the Bible says, "Whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord,
exactly,
shall be delivered."
Yeah,
but here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's the controversy. Everybody that's calling on him don't make room for him. So if the scriptures say, if you call on him, he'll come. Says nothing about where he's going to stay when he gets there. And so the challenge is, yeah, you may experience a level of freedom by calling on the Lord in a worshiping culture, but the answer is no. Bondage will remain, because in order to really be set free, you got to exchange your God. You cannot approach God even if you call on his name, and expect him to set you free, if you've not surrendered your life or you removed your life from under the dominion of the things you served prior to him. Hence the cycles: cigarettes, lust, bondage, sin, disease, because there's never really been a complete sacrifice unto God. So, gentlemen, what, pray tell, are we surviving? If worship is the lifeblood of the Christian experience, it is what we did, or a form of what we did, what are we surviving on? Like, what's feeding us?
Past experiences.
Give me an example.
Because there's in worship, you also can experience different type of wars. I think we're still living off of the spoils from past wars won,
right.
Past experiences from God. Meeting him in old places, or him not pressuring us to go to new places because we won't do it. So I think we're still at low-level situations where God, in his mercy, is meeting us and causing us to have these experiences or these encounters out of mercy for him being lonely for friends, him having the desire to see his people, to be with his people. He's allowing praise to literally bring him so close that we think it's worship that we're experiencing.
I think it's also possible to experience worship off of someone else's experience. That's how glory works, is that if somebody legitimately has a history with God and they get a musical platform, and because of their experience or acquaintance with him, he comes, a person in the audience or around it may experience it, but it's not enough to craft or form a culture.
Right. So you'll be affected by it because of the environment. But once you leave that environment, what happens? So I think it's the residue of past movements, Azusa Street and everybody else that paid the price before what we are dealing with today. And I think if you look at the current state of the church, it's apparent that brook is drying up. And so I think you can experience worship as a result of the environment that you're in, but then what happens when you leave that environment and you're left to your own devices?
Yeah, Elder Moore, the numbers started dropping when we said the D word. We told them to make a decision. So that's a challenge. They don't want decision. They want God and porn, and God and the down low, and God and rebellion, and God and pride, and God and sex, and God and cigarettes, and God and Shonda Rhimes,
Do they
and
want
God.
God, or do they want safety? Do they want?
What they want is
protection?
eternal life insurance. They want to make sure that in the event that something hit them, that they will not burn and fry in hell.
Yeah, you don't really, because you can't want God and still you're in love with what.
So, but if your pursuit of God is just about not experiencing what you're afraid of, have you really experienced intimacy with him? Like, if the only reason you're trying to live right is because you're scared of hell, have you still missed the revelation of God?
Because you're missing. That means you only have an understanding of a portion of his nature.
Right.
You still don't know God.
Right.
I think the question we need to ask is, how many altars have we built?
Right.
Hosea chapter 8 talks about how Ephraim built multiple altars, and these altars became altars for sin. And so the question is, we are not reaching God is because we built many altars.
So it's possible to offer the wrong thing even in a moment of worship.
Absolutely. And I believe that in some churches we're experiencing a presence.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels
Of
good.
something.
It sounds good. People are on the floor worshiping. Things of that sort, but we can't really touch the tangible presence of God, the authentic presence of God. It's because we have too many, starting from the head on down, we have too many altars that we have built individually. And when we get into a corporate setting, sometimes it's hard to
It's a conflict of interest.
It's right. I mean, everybody has the same altars. You know, we have about 15 altars that we built, and I think the reason why we have altars is because we're worshipers, we are literally vulnerable. We're open. So because we're vulnerable and we're open, we have built altars based upon wanting that this openness, wanting to know something else in the world, especially when we were in sin, wanting to know something else that was different because we didn't really understand this connection with God. And so we built these altars of pornography and rejection and masturbation and things of this sort.
Because an altar is an expression of something you've dedicated yourself to.
Absolutely. And then it does not become a place of sacrifice where you die and change. It becomes a place of sacrifice where you die to the thing that wants to kill you.
So we're attempting to bring all of these other gods into the presence of the living God. And he already said, thou shalt have no other gods before me. So we're attempting to worship him and still hold hands with our other gods.
So let's say I like my other God, right?
Right.
I'm coming to church looking like somebody's auntie. And I come, and that's how I've been. I got my choir robe, my stole. I just came off of the what's that religious award show they give y'all? I just came off the Stellas.
Yes, I want to agree.
He gave me one more chance, and I just sang all. I'm being serious, right? So I like my other gods, but I come into a church that has brought me into, I don't know that this is what it is. I'm maybe a little uncomfortable, but because of its presence, brought me into a place of conflict with what I like and what they're demonstrating. What happens to me as a byproduct of experiencing the presence of this God that for whatever reason I choose not to know, or I won't go, or any of that, right? And now you guys are singing and dancing and this God is coming in. Can I come into worship, or can something happen to me even with my relationship with my personal God? What?
Go ahead.
Deuteronomy, I think like 12. God speaks through Moses and tells him how to deal with the altars of these other gods. And it's very harsh, very brutal. He tells them, rip down their altars, do away with what they're doing, burn their burn everything that they use to sacrifice to their gods, because he's jealous. So in that moment, I believe that there's that war again that we deal with. And you have people who are dealing with whatever they're idolizing at that time. And God speaks through Moses, and I believe it's like verse 4 specifically, where he says, you can't worship like them. Or your past experiences, you can't worship like that no more. This is your way to do it. So like it's that in your face type of ordeal where, you have to make the earmark of the worshiper. You have to make your decision. Will you bow to me, or will you bow to them?
Because if God's name, he says in that very same chapter, you're right, because I went to Bible school. He says, the Lord God whose name is jealous is a jealous God. So you can't really experience that type of environment or a culture of worship and not bump into his jealousy. So maybe the culture of worship invites me an opportunity as I am, but it lays an incumbent pressure to either choose him or not in the place of worship.
And it's just for everybody on here, it's dangerous to be in that position and stay there, because ultimately what you end up doing is, if there's that conviction and you love your other gods, whatever, and then you're in that place of worship and you're experiencing it, but you keep rejecting it, what you're really doing is you're desensitizing your soul, and what you end up doing is you're making God
thickening that wall against him.
Exactly, and you end up experiencing a temporary freedom. It's almost like a false freedom,
and that can become very tormenting, can't it?
Exactly.
So is it our understanding that there are more tormented people in the church than what we are willing to admit? You would have to be tormented. Living life with all of that stuff, and living life and all, and then come again getting the awareness that something else is possible, but not being able to drink of it because of where your heart still is.
I think there's a word that we've gone across in multiple scriptures tonight, and that word is Lord. A lot of a lot of what people are experiencing, a lot of the struggles that people are having, is because they've not come to decision where it comes as it pertains to lordship. A lot of people have not totally decided to make him Lord. And what that looks like is laying down of what we believe to be our life, or what we believe to be our way or our things, or a lot of us have created this fantasy behind, or created this fantasy life that I can just kind of do, and I can cut my record, and I can sing in this choir, and just because I go to church, that's my ticket in, and I'll be fine. But there are things, God does not save us just to morals. God saves us to work. Yeah. And there's a lot of for you to get even those marching orders, you're gonna get those in worship. And a lot of people are missing what they need, or what their calling is, what their purpose is, because they're not getting, first of all, making that decision in lordship, and then they're not getting in the place of worship to find out what their actual marching orders are. Yeah.
I have found that something has hit all nations, and I know what it is. I have a language for it, but something has hit our church where we have started to magnetize people that are called musically, and whether and I think it's going to get a little worse. But so I know God is mandating our house for music. As a pastor of music ministers and music leaders and psalmists and writers and musical prophets, one of my greatest challenges is to refine, clarify, guard, oversee their journey or their pursuit into what we know is the music industry. The positive side, irrespective of what people feel about it, of what we know to be the music industry, is that it demands something that the church is okay with going without, and that's excellence. Yeah. There is a positive side to that. You don't get signed, you don't get video recorded, your lyrics don't go on. So I personally think there is a benefit, is that, when you come up in church, everybody's a choir singer, everybody, but the industry is so particular and so, cutthroat with talent, with not. So there is an upside to the industry. And another upside to the industry is it really does give, I believe in the power of platform. It gives people the opportunity to display personal history with God. But I think there are also some dangers to the industry when you depart your call to worship. What do we think those dangers are? It's not all bad. And sometimes when people teach worship, they teach like it's all bad.
One of the first things that you're going to come into, one of the first and major issues that you're going to come into is, especially in the African American persuasion, the dealing of finances always gets nasty. So now you are dealing with people who are supposed to be your brother and your
this is
sister
getting juicy.
In worship.
I feel the juice.
In the presence of the Lord, in Christ. But when it comes to the trading of finances or money coming in and out, switching hands, it gets really nasty, because because the industry is it's driven by money, it's driven by fame in most cases. A lot of people's real thing is, I have to be successful. I have to feed mom.
I start hitting that industry. It's at $7.97. They like, no, we out of here. I want my record deal, devil. I got my single and my EP, and you ain't been on your face all year.
When it comes to feeding family and taking care of family, honestly, a lot of people who start off as what we see as Christians turn into snakes really fast, as it pertains to the dealing of my money.
I think another danger might be
because you got a lot of experience with this industry.
Yeah.
All them choirs wanted him.
Okay.
And he was a weed smoking, drug dealing,
but I'm so deliberate.
Choir helper. He is very deliberate.
Very much so deliberate.
But they wanted him.
I think one of the main things, one of the other dangers is pressure as well, and that's pressure to. If you come into the industry actually with a real tangible relationship with God, to keep it. For some reason you get around these people and you start learning that those that were keeping themselves or seemed like they were keeping themselves really not, and they get into the antics and they start telling you that it really doesn't take all that, and it's more of a show and it's more into antics, and we don't need.
So another danger is that there's a lot of trainers in the industry.
There is a
that
lot of trainers.
Opposite of God.
Exactly. Don't do this. We'll tell you how to do this. We'll tell you how to milk it this way, and what ends up happening is you end up losing your entire relationship with God, and now you have become a performer, an artist, if you will.
Go ahead. I was going to say, unfortunately, worship and intimacy doesn't sell in the industry.
Why do you
unfortunately,
think that? And does anybody here's some juice? Does anybody who knows worship and industry last? And do they become as competitive in the industry as those who don't know it?
No.
That's a year or two.
Yeah, I was definitely getting ready to say
is
that.
Getting juicy.
Integrity is something that's hard to keep in the industries because it's easy to sell out in regards to money. It's because sometimes the secular world may offer you something that might be something a little bit more than what you may have or what you might receive in the gospel industry. And so let's give you this video here, or let's put you on this platform and you'll get a bigger audience. I think right now that there are very little, maybe at least 5 gospel artists that have a voice of worship and intimacy.
Yeah.
And they are
you
on
probably
the
name
scene.
them on your hand.
They're on the scene, and they're maintaining their level of intimacy and integrity. And I say Tasha Cobbs is one of them, where she maintains where she is, and she's not budging, she's not moving. You have just a few of those who can honestly just stay where they are, and literally when they have an offer, they're like, no, I'm not moving.
And you can always tell in their music style if they come from either a worshiping house or if they know worship. Here is the challenge, I think, with the music industry. And of course, it's going to have something to do with a demon. Seriously. There is a demon that I think sits atop of the gospel music industry, because I don't know many gospel music industries companies that are led by gospel believing people, number one. So because of that, the founders, the money holders, the contract, the decision makers of many of these places are demonized people. They just see the value in being able to employ different talents. So having said that, a lot of these guys are very much so. Now, I'm not a singer, so I can say this. These guys, so I'm not going to ruin my music career by making y'all mad. But these guys are the heads, CEOs, execs, producers, decision makers. A lot of them are married to a demon named Mammon. And there is a devil in the New Testament that Jesus Christ talks about calling, and he called it Mammon. And what Mammon is a God that demands your grade and your talent and your potential in exchange for finances and wealth. So a lot of people go in purely motivated, purely creative, and I know people that went in with real experience in worship and in the presence of God, right? And by the time they got coached and mentored by some vets, couple of big name writers got their perverse eyeshadow wearing tail to them, start helping them to write better music that would sell, start cultivating them, do less of this, do less of that. I just feel something right now. Do less of this, do less of that. Start mutating them from being a baby of the presence like Samuel was, who grew up knowing God, into somebody who was more marketable. Now, I think refinements are necessary. You should be mentored for greater platforms. But however, when something demands your solidarity and demands your worship behavior and demands that in action, no, it's not shade, it's true, in exchange for popularity, opportunity, Sunday's best, the Grammys, no, that's not Grammys. We have very few of those. The Stellars, Auntie Stella, and all of them people. Then I think the worship discussion is inevitably distracted because of the objective is sell, 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 sell. Now, I'm a money man. Let me just get that out there. You should be making money, right? But when the conversation gets to sell, 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 after you have been around that for so much, subconsciously, you have to let some of your priestliness go. because you got to present what the audience wants. So can you maintain your integrity as a worshiper by switching the direction of your audience? Like, if I'm writing worship music for people, is there a part of me that may end up being compromised in what I'm doing?
Certainly, because a priest is not a priest of the people. A priest is set by God, or set by God and used by God to present sacrifices to Him, to be the medium for the people. You have a part of you that is called to the people, but you're not there to satisfy them. So you have to go
because worship has never been about people.
Not at all. Not at all. We're only required to bring the sacrifice.
Right.
Everything else is done by God. He either consumes it by fire or whatever way he decides to do so. It's completely on how he responds. So the priest is set to bring the sacrifice and to show the people the way of doing it, not to please them, not to lower the standard. That's why the priest is there, to meet the standard. So they have to be raised a certain way. They have to go through certain trainings. They have to wear certain, like there's
demands,
different demands and requirements for the priest in order for the people to even be reasonable in the eyesight of God.
Yeah. But it's not popular though. And it's,
at all.
Well, it's not popular because the presence isn't.
Exactly. And you end up, losing sales, and, and folks can't deal with that, and you get in this place of compromise. And then now, that Holy Spirit falls. And I think one of the main reasons is because the Holy Spirit is intimidating. So, after you get through singing that stuff on the mic, for the first time, man, it's something new. You keep doing it. All right, now you're starting to convict me, and all right. So we need to kind of change it up a bit, make it more. What's the term now?
That.
It needs to be inspirational. There you go. There has to be more inspirational now, because now you actually digging, and now you actually convicting folks. So
and there's no way to control what happens afterwards.
Yeah. I've heard stories of worship sessions at the Stellar Awards.
Yes, you have.
That were so full of the presence of God that the show had to shut down. And that artist was never invited back because of the release of the presence and the glory of God that was manifested that day.
Well, here's the deal. We got to have the discussion about why a person who feels like their ministry and their mandate is worship would be so aspiring to be celebrated amongst a people that hate him. And I think the conversation has to be had about why people who don't know God get to dictate to us about which way we have to do it. Like, we allow all of this stuff to dictate us. I think in dealing with worship culture, one of the ways the church went wrong was that we put people over our music that didn't know His presence. We went wrong with giving worship pastors who had no history with God. And you should have a worship pastor who moves in excellence. My opinion is you need to invest in them being trained. You need to get for them to have musical opportunities, all of that, right? But I think that it is a major deficiency in the body of Christ with how many worship leaders can't or don't know how to navigate people into the presence of the Lord. Because you're going to have, in an ideal world, we would have a church like what Dr. Noah was talking about, where people understood it. But the reality is that's never going to happen. Because in the church, you have mixed traffic, and it's going to be that way. I believe God wants it that way. People that are decided, people that are not, people that are saved, and people that are not. So that worship leader is under a lot of pressure to centralize all of those different conversations and all of those different desires and all of those different experiences to center them on something. So without a worship leader who knows the paths that lead to His presence, both musically and through exhortation, I don't know that there's a real way to provide for opportunity for a lot of the things that we are seeing. Why do you guys think pastors recruit lead music people who don't know the presence of the Lord?
For production.
Popularity.
It's presentation over presence nowadays. We haven't learned how to marry the two. We haven't learned how to have presence and good presentation. So the problem
because the presence of God should be presented well.
Exactly. But we're willing to sacrifice presence for performance or good presentation. So we haven't learned how to bring the two together and present God in excellence. So what we've done is we'll compromise and we'll say, give me a little bit of presence, but I need more production. And so until we bring the two together, I think we'll continue to see what it is that we're seeing today. More performance.
We have beautiful singers,
Absolutely.
I mean, around the world, but there are very little people who spend time with God. And I think the problem now is we have a lot of worship leaders who are operating on skill and not on presence. You can't, I mean, they're worship leaders who don't spend time with God on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And when Sunday morning comes, they conjure up a little something like, they pray in the bathroom or something like that. And they go into the sanctuary, Lord, just use us today. Go in the sanctuary and then muster up a song and carry the song, and it sounds really good, but nobody's changed, nothing of that sort. So,
what's going to sell, not what's going to save, not what's going to deliver, not what's going to heal, but what's going to sell.
Or what's going to facilitate the conversation between heaven and earth.
Absolutely.
I believe that a lot of preachers have started to believe the lie that its presentation is going to get people in seats. And it's ultimately the only thing that's going to get people in seats and keep people in seats is the presence of God. Your presentation is never, ever going to keep people because I guarantee everything that you present,
draws, but it can't
somebody
satisfy.
else. I guarantee everything that you present, somebody else can do
satisfy.
it. Somebody else can do it, but only the presence of God can do what the presence of God does. So when you get the presence of God to a place, you will ultimately bring people and keep people
from everywhere. That's what happened with Lazarus when he was sick. Jesus told him, this sickness is not unto them, but unto the glory of the Father. And when they went into the city afterwards, then people came to see Lazarus, a demonstration of God's power, and not even Jesus, and they were together. So it's the demonstration of who Jesus is that draws people and bring them in. It's not what you can do, because Lazarus was still beat up. No, I take that back. They changed his clothes after that. But it wasn't so much the presentation; it was what was offered. Hey, this is the man that was dead. This is the situation that everybody had wrote off. This is the situation where nobody thought any good would come from it. And then Jesus steps on the scene. He was brought into where Lazarus was, and the demonstration of his power is what people came to see after that.
I'm a pastor of worship, right? I got a house full of them. I'm gonna probably have a house full of them. And one of the things in developing worship culture, a word that we've got to all study, singers, musicians, pastors that will lead worship or provide for worship opportunity, is the word captivate. I don't think there is a more fuller term to describe what should be a mandatory experience in worship. And here's why. In worship, the Bible says you are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength, right? So it means that in approaching God and in loving God, it should really consume every part of you. And so there is that marriage between presence and presentation, because God don't want your hands under arrest and your eyes distracted, or your eyes distracted and your knees. So this is why we do sight and sound. We sing, we dance, we bow, we chant, we repeat, because it's so important to captivate the human heart. That's one of the objectives of a worship culture. So I actually do believe that there should be right presentation of the presence of God, not to the point where it distracts us of the goal, but a beautiful marriage of both will allow for the captivation and a multi-sensory experience that enables for every part of your being to be fascinated by God. There is a point of fascination that will lead people to freedom, and I believe Satan uses that point of fascination to lead people into flirtation and to bondage and into death, because he knows the power of having an all-encompassing experience where your body is drawn and attracted to something. So I really do believe that churches ought to do a better job at presenting the presence well, but they should not present something without the essence of the presence of God. So you need to have right presentation of the presence of God, because sometimes wrong presentation can be obstinate. It can get in the way of people's reach to God. So I don't think worship should be shabby. I mean, I don't think that mics should be continually going out. I don't think that your stage should look a mess. I think that if you put more effort in making your bed than you do allowing for a stage to be set in a very literal way for people to be drawn into what the throne room looks like, then I think you're lazy, and you can't bash people who do attract people because they have right presentation. The presence of God does need presentation. Let's talk about this. At what point did worship merit music? At what point does worship require the song?
Are we talking about just like in current day?
Yeah, in a good way. Like, at how does it work together?
I think corporate settings, like large groups, because that's how you can center everybody. I think that's a great way to not necessarily invade the hearts of man, but that's a way how you bring them to attention through the music and through presenting God in a way that I don't want to say it's like not offensive, because it can be offensive sometimes, but it's very calming. You break their defenses, you break down their past, you break down their perspective.
So what is the power of a melody? Like, what is the power of music?
Music is the only language that crosses barriers. Music is the only thing that's understood and or felt, even
by
if
every culture.
By every culture possible. I can go to anywhere in the world and sing a song in English that they don't even speak English, but because of what they feel on the music, they'll enjoy it. They'll rock and sway. In a lot of cases, they'll learn the song in English and not even know what they're saying. For the purpose of what they feel when they sing this song, or how this song makes them feel, they'll that music, it crosses borders. And that same concept is the reason why I believe it's one of the greatest ways for, it's one of the greatest avenues for worship, because people need to be connected to each other. One, we need people to survive, to make everything in the world happen, everything that we need to do for our mandates happen, we need people for. But I believe that worship was just the greatest avenue in terms of people being able to feel and experience God, even if they didn't know what was necessarily being spoken.
So why do you guys think God uses music?
I think music is also an expediter, besides just kind of being a feel-good type of thing, because I've worshiped into a place where a song came out. And not only it being an expediter, but I think it's also a key as well.
Keep talking.
And I think, of course, in it expediting you, and I guess being that bicycle to that journey to God, it being a key, because, like I said, when I've worshiped, a song came out, and then I've entered into a place that I just couldn't enter into with my English language, or even with my heavenly language. Like, it just needed a tune or a melody to kind of float me to a place, if you will. Yeah, and it does float. It will ease you into a place that you've never been in before.
Paul talked about singing in the Spirit.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, come on. What is the relationship, scientifically, medically, spiritually, in your experience, with the music and the memory? Because that's my understanding of one of the reasons God uses music, is because it's the easiest way to cause something to be remembered, retained, and valued. Everything that is important to us, the alphabet, the numbers, the birthday song, which is the acknowledgement of it, they all have a song. What is that? What is that connection?
I think music has a way of bringing back to remembrance the experiences that people have had with God. So I believe, honestly, if Moses was still alive today, he would probably still be singing that song he wrote in Exodus about the horse and the rider is thrown into the sea.
Yeah.
Because of the remembrance of it, all through the Bible you hear about remember what the Lord has done, remember what the Lord has done. Not that he won't do anything else, but if he never did another thing, remember what the Lord has done. And I think that music would help. I mean, even if you were growing up and you heard a specific song all the time throughout your childhood,
you heard it 30 years. It gets crazy. I could give everybody in the room the first 3 words to any random song, ratchet or not. And either you would know it or remember it or something like that. So is one of the reasons God uses music is to retain a spot in the memories and in the conscious of his people.
Music is invasive. You don't even have to be actively listening to a song to remember it. That's very accurate. You can sit in a place where a song is playing and it plays long enough.
And you can't get out your head. We did it today.
At some point it's going to come back up and it's like, I wasn't even listening to that song, but for some reason I know it.
So music has music finds a storage place.
Yeah. Well, scientifically, music, it settles you. Whether it depends on what your definition of settlement is for you. It could be, for me, it's ambient music. For somebody else, it's rap music. So it's settling to scientifically to your body. If it settles you, then it causes your memory cells to be fully attentive and activated. So you can listen to something unaware that you're listening to it, and in another hour you know the full chorus. So it settles your body and gives your brain the ability to move faster than it would when it's not listening.
So let's talk about that. How is that a worship issue? Why would God use the technology, for lack of a better way to put it, of music as the platform, primarily speaking, that worship is introduced? What is his genius in that? Why would he give us the plate of something that affects storage, memory, holding, housing, caring for? Tabernacle is the Bible word for it. Together, holding thought and memory together. What is the relationship to that and worship?
Why wouldn't, if he's a jealous God, why wouldn't he want to employ a strategy that's going to cause us to remember things of importance about him, to bring us into a place where it doesn't matter where we are, what's going on with us. It takes us to a place where we're reminded of him, his mercies, his goodness. And why wouldn't he use something that's going to help us to remember what he has commanded and what he's requiring of us? Why wouldn't he use a strategy or something that's going to have the ability to disarm our fears and disarm our rebellion, disarm everything in us that would normally be against what it is that he's trying to accomplish in our lives? So he has to use something that is powerful enough to combat the other voices that's going on in our hearts, in our minds, and in our souls. And if music has the ability to center you, to focus you, and to calm you, it is the place where now God can begin to speak to you, where God can begin to direct your path, where God can begin to bring to light that which needs to be eradicated, where God can begin to work out processes in your heart and in your mind. And so he's genius in using
something that would be used to sit in you, because worship is about thrones and seats. And if your memory and your soul and your inner man is a place where something has the opportunity to reside, then it makes sense that music be the instrumentation that it gets it there, and whatever was there out.
I think another thing with that is we know God to be a God that talks. But we don't know God to be a God that sings. And we need to understand the verbiage of what that sounds like, is that Zephaniah 3:17 talks about how he rejoices over us with singing. So God is not just a God that talks, but God is a God that sings as well. And so we have to realize that God uses instrumentation, God uses music to change us. I was in the car coming from Atlanta with my cousin, and my cousin's not saved, and I was playing some music in the car, and she was asleep. And as I began to play the song, she woke up with tears in her tears in her eyes, and she said, "I needed this. I needed this." It's because something happened down on the inside of her at the time that she was asleep. God uses it. Doesn't even. I listen to ambient music. Ambient music is not even considered to be worship type music or inspirational music, but it has a different sound that will spark some point in you that will change you at some point.
Music is very much eternal, opposed to it being reality.
Right.
Yeah,
And
because them sounds have to come from somewhere,
Exactly. It's an escape.
But which would also make sense to why when music comes, how you can hear a song and it touches you somewhere, but you've never heard this song before. So is that to say that God also uses these eternal sounds to speak to a spirit that knows the sound already, that you haven't came into contact.
Because we're spirit.
Exactly.
I just made up a new term and I just heard it. God
Make
uses
it up there,
instrumentation and melody to. It's God's way. Okay, music is eternally internal. So what that means is like when you sing and when you express melody unto God, it's almost like, I don't know if it's prophetic enough, but like what I just saw was like when you sing and worship with melody and instrumentation, it's almost like God's way of writing and inscribing something on your heart. It's God's way of writing and inscribing something on your soul. So whenever you hear that sound, whenever you hear that song, it reminds you of what God has written there. And it also, not only it reminds you, but it's God's favorite way to taunt the enemy. Because the devil can see it too. So when that stuff in your soul try to come up, the enemy says, Jehovah Jireh is written here. Jehovah Gabor is written here. You know, so it's God's way of inscribing and writing on your heart with melody and instrumentation.
So this is why Jesus said, the Father seeketh true worshipers, those that will worship Him in spirit, number one, and in truth. So then there's a dichotomy. What He's saying now is, you can worship Him in spirit because you are spirit. So you understand. This is a part of you that already understands. Now you need to add truth to what you already have. So yeah, that's powerful. It's powerful.
I think the whole thing about memory, it's the scripture says, "Forget not the Lord, for it is He who gives power to obtain wealth." Like taking it and just realizing what it is, remembering God will give you the power to obtain anything. Right. And we have to remember that we are His word, and we are to accomplish. That's what we're saved. We're saved to serve. So we have to remember that He empowers us to obtain something. So whatever it is, if it's your day, your week, your life's calling, whatever you were designed and sent by God to do, He has to do that by causing you to remember who He is. And what better way to do it through a song? So I believe that's what He uses mainly, is like the song to remind you that He's a great God. Powerful. So why wouldn't you serve Him? He's a good God.
It's going to stir those memories back up. I am a worshiper. I worship, but everybody who leads worship, now I'm not a worship leader in that sense. I've never had that official title at any church. But what happens when worship peaks and when you try to reach a presence you have grown accustomed to with a means that you've grown accustomed to using and it no longer works? Like in your personal worship life and a corporate worship life, there's a time and a place in your walk with God where you can employ certain things and it works and it gets His attention. And then you try to get Him the same way in a different time and on a different day. And it seems like it may have offended Him even. Or what has happened if worship has peaked?
I think I've seen this happen before. I believe it's happened to me. It's happened to. I think the most important thing to have in moments like that is that relationship with the Holy Spirit, because it's the Holy Spirit who brings truth. It's the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of God that rests on the inside of us. So we always have some level of connection to Him. Right. And in moments like that, those peaks can come from a lot of different things. With as a worship leader, you are carrying people. You are carrying people. You are mandated to assist or help people get into a place where they possibly can't get on their own or they're not used to going. Yeah. So
have you ever had worship peak?
Absolutely, and especially where I tried to worship from a place where I was familiar with and could not reach God from that place again. Where God, in our walk with God, there comes a time when God says, "That's not acceptable in my presence anymore," or "You can't bring that here anymore." Or,
somebody on here said they don't think that God would demand more. Is that the truth biblically?
No, that's a lie.
The prophets.
Because He did it to me on World Changers. Man or woman of God who said that particularly, I can tell you from my personal experience around our event that we had World Changers. God, he completely left me from the place that I knew to go to. And I'm gonna tell you, first thing that happened was I got frustrated, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't find God in the place that I knew Him at. So it will happen. The thing is, when that happens, though, He will require you to go deeper because He's a loving God and He wants you.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal about when worship peaks. is that there's going to always be the unveiling of a different requirement. You cannot have a conversation about worship and leave the subject of requirement. And it doesn't mess. So what it means is, if I feel like worship has peaked or intimacy has peaked in my life, in my church, then it means that I must be giving something that he no longer wants. And what he does want, I am either unaware of, have not developed the courage to give, I have not understood the place. But one of the common ways that worship peaks is in when we're offering something that we've offered. And he has required our only begotten son, Abraham, or he has required the last of our whatever for the Shunammite. So there are times in worship where it does peak. He does. And that's why the psalmist always uses stuff like seek. If he's always there and always leading in, then why do you have to seek a God that doesn't go nowhere? Because although he is omniscient and he's omnipresent, there are times where he backs up. And the time that he backs up is not to torment, but to stir and to rouse in you the awareness that he wants something you haven't given him before. God does get bored with the stuff we offer him.
And I'll go back to they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. And for the sake of what you just said, I'll use the truth component. Is because our relationship with God, it literally graduates. So there's been a season where you've known him as deliverer. God's like, okay, well, let's graduate from this place. And so if you try to seek me from that place, I'm not there anymore. I want you to know me as Father in this season. And so what happens is God begins to change your worship. He begins to take you to a new place, and then I think sometimes we get very frustrated. It's because it's like we can't find it anymore. But God is like, yeah, I've moved you over here. It's because I want you to know me in a different capacity. Like my grandmother knows him as deliverer in like 15 different capacities. She's known him in as a healer. The doctors gave her up to die. I've never been there. Yeah, I know him as healer. It's because he healed me of chronic nosebleeds. However, there are other levels. There are other levels. And so I think that whenever we get to a place where God's like, okay, I want more in this level, God begins to put that pressure on us. God begins to cause us to be overwhelmed. And God calls us, literally, I was saying today how we have 1 foot in eternity and 1 foot in the earth, where we're feeling two things at one time. And it's almost like, God, what am I going through? God's like, I'm trying to pull you out of the place where you were, so get you to the place where I need you to be, so that you know me like God has so many characteristics about himself. God is so much bigger than how you know him. And God's like, if you're going to transform or change in some type of capacity, I want you to know me in a different type of way.
Here's the problem. Some of the most common worship songs today have to do with what we want. If one more person say, fill me up, I'm going to have a heart attack. And here's why. I'm going to just quit the ministry live streaming. I'm sick of it. Now, it's a beautiful song. I'm not shading it. I think it's great. I'm just tired of it. And here's why. What do? There's nothing we want more. There's nothing we want more. But let me tell you, I'm a prophet. I talk to the man, so I know what he's saying. What happens and what do you do when he wants more? I think the conversation has gotten one-sided, and what you got to know about worship is when what you give, when he wants something, what you give's always determine what he's willing to do to you. And so if God is backed up and he's demanding something more, and he starts to crave more, and he starts to require more, and he starts to request more, what it is the beginning point of whatever he desires to do with you. Well, you may be like, well, why won't he just do it? Because sacrifice moves him. Elijah had to give water in a time of famine for fire to fall. So a lot of us are not experiencing God due to us what he even wants to, because we're not giving him more. It's what you offer him that determine what he's able to do to you. And that's important. That may be about why and how worship peaks. Let's go here. And let's deal with this on both angles. How does God train worshipers, and how should the church train worshipers? So I'm going to start it, and then I'm going to let y'all hit it. I think that the first lesson, there's two. When God is making a worshiper out of you, You're going to hit brokenness and you're going to hit obedience. God will allow for things to occur around you, in you, for you, that's going to break you, because you can't be worshiper and proud. And he's going to allow for things to happen to test the degree, the depth, the consistency of your obedience. That's God's training. God builds worshipers by opportunities for obedience and brokenness. How do y'all think? What were your personal journeys in worship? How did God start to teach you and prepare you for worship?
Definitely those two, like humility and submission. I went through quite a well. I went through a span of about 2 years where I was living in Alabama, and I had absolutely no idea how I was going to pay my rent. And it's different because it would seem as though, like, okay, well, why didn't you just get a job, or why didn't you just, you know, go get a job? You were doing worship. Why weren't you being paid, or why weren't you financially taking care of the situation? The thing was, what the requirement that God put on me was not to work. And because prior to this season, I was actually a sought after worship leader in Alabama. I could have went to a number of churches and went in for whatever I wanted. But that moment when that season started, every church that had an offer on the table rescinded all of those offers. And God told me to sit still. And monthly, I saw people come to my door and drop my rent and all the bills. So it was a matter of, will you be willing to do what I asked you to do, though you could make a way out on your own, or though you could find another avenue? Are you willing to sit and do what it is that I'm requiring you to do in this season?
Yeah, I think with me it was with or through the lens of sin. The wages of sin is death.
Come on, sin.
It was.
Now you talk here.
Yeah, it was.
Talk here. Somebody on this scope need to know about sin.
Yeah, it was felt after it was all said and done, you feel the spirit of death. And when I say the spirit of death, I mean not in a physical sense, but in a spiritual sense, where you are no longer focused, you're no longer in your right mind, you're no longer stable, and you feel depleted. In some sense. And so I got to the point where I didn't want to feel like that anymore, because I had tasted the heavenly gift already. And I wanted to be in the presence of God. Having known what the presence of God was, and having known what the presence of sin was, and how good at the time sin felt, nothing was better than the presence of God. And so there was a time I was like, God, I don't want to go back. And so during that time, God would break me, and God would say, do you like that better, or do you like my presence better? And I would literally cry at being in God's presence, because it felt better than the life of sin. And so that's how God began to prepare me. So now when I'm in the presence of God, there's such freedom when I can say, God, I just bless you that I'm not in that place anymore. I can sing from a different well this time, from a pure place, because it's like, God, I remember where I used to be, but I'm not there anymore. So sin.
Has anybody's experience been that worship was an O'Shea? I'm telling you, I feel this in my soul. Is it anybody's testimony that God used worship to bring you out of sin?
Yes, Lord.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yes, God. Listen. When I was in a place where I had given up on ever being delivered, ever being set free, I had given up on God's ability to set me free. And then I got to a place where it felt like everything had been literally snatched away from me, like the carpet had been snatched from up under me. And it was in one moment of surrender to God where I literally began to cry out to God and say to God, if you deliver me and if you don't give up on me. I came from a place of real deep hurt and real deep pain where I didn't have anything or anybody else to pull on in that moment. I was left to myself, my devices, my sin, and the people that I was sinning with. And so when I said to God, I will give you everything about me if you snatch me out of this place. And I felt the presence of God come and literally wrap himself around me, that it was that love and that presence and that moment of worship, because my expression of worship to God at that time was, I have nothing left, so everything that I have right now, I have to surrender to you. And that's what real worship is. And so that it was that moment, that place that literally snatched me out of the hands of death and gave me brand new.
Y'all see how many people like, because I'm over here. I mean, while they was talking about how worship brings you out of sin, I remember the grip of God on me after having told him no through decisions and actions and stuff. And worship was the one environment where I couldn't ignore what he wanted out of my life. Is that a part of him training worshipers?
That's the way he does it. My training was, and it's still that way. Every time he wants something new out of me, it always come back to this same place of encounter. He always pushes me beyond, like we were talking about, like he always changes the level of sacrifice that he wants. So early on, probably like high school, I can remember specifically where he would require, I would have to get up like in the 5 o'clock hour in the morning in order to feel him like I needed to go throughout my day and be successful. So in like even this season I'm in now, he requires that I get up early and see him in order to be the Jalil he created me to be, in order to be functional and not mentally weighed down. He requires that I get up and meet him in order to be able to go throughout a day and be successful.
In my worship, can y'all see now? One of the things we're talking about how God trains worshipers, and then we're going to go into how the church should train worshipers. And my journey as a worshiper, and I think I'm going to see how many worshipers are in this room when I say this, because we're going to talk about music next. But in my journey as a worshiper, other than obedience and brokenness, one of the consistent themes that has fueled my worship life is waiting. Every worship leader will learn how to wait. God never gives the worshiper what he wants immediately. He's going to make... They manifested it here. There's a such thing called waiting in his presence, waiting on him until your strength is renewed, waiting on him so that he focuses the heart. Yo, when God has decided, look, y'all see these devils manifest in this building? When God has decided to make a worshiper out of you, he's going to make you wait, because he always wants you to be aware of what you want and why. Okay, let's see who agrees with that. Who agrees with this?
I agree. I was gonna say, as far as
I feel the Holy Ghost. He coming in by this Christmas tree.
As far as with the worship, a worship is never absent of. When the presence of God comes in, or when he's trying to develop a lifestyle of worshiping you, it is never absent of purpose and of responsibility. Purpose in the sense of when God is trying to communicate something through worship, it is a purpose for him trying to have an encounter with you. And then second, my personal experience was as far as worship with responsibility. I was irresponsible, and it's that carries over in worship. And I honestly believe that in my laziness,
Hutchinson, please keep going. I'm sorry.
I honestly believe that in my laziness, it affected my worship, and God brought me to a breaking point where I had to come out of being lazy and seek his face. And I honestly believe that that's why
because in waiting you learn what you do with your energy. You learn where you put.
That's where he tests your heart. He has you wait there.
So if he doesn't make you a waiter or make you learn how to wait in his presence, he cannot prove to you what you've been doing with your energy.
Exactly.
That comes back to
it brings you to a place of focus and
It is an idolatry conversation. It is a trust conversation.
So even the good things that you ask the Lord for, why do you want that? Why do you desire that? If I give this to you, what are you going to do with that? And what is it going to do with you?
This close.
You can't have them
this close to condemnation.
So does it take waiting to make a quality worshiper?
Yes.
No? Are you with me, son?
Yes,
You're
sir,
manifesting?
I'm here.
Yes, sir. Manifesting?
Yes. God.
You just had a lot of revelation. You left me. What happened to the Morehouse?
I'm here.
Why does God use, David said, my soul waiteth thou patiently on you. He said, my heart and my flesh cry out for you. Is waiting one of the ways he starves you? Does he want to starve you? Does he want to empty you of the stuff that you want that he doesn't? Is it one of the ways that he aligns you with his will? I mean, what is the use of waiting? If it's the Father's good pleasure to give us stuff, then why does he make the worshiper wait?
That's what I was literally just talking to my guy. She like just texted me and said we were just talking about that. That's where he builds integrity.
Yeah.
Because if you stay there, you're showing God, I'm committed to whatever I presented to you or what you allowed me to see. I'm committed to waiting here because I want that. I'm going to show you I want it by staying where you last talked to me, by staying where you last met me, by staying where you last set this requirement. I'm going to show you I'm committed to this place where I've last seen you in order to get to where I'm trying to go. So that's where he tests your commitment, your character. He sobers your heart. He shows you exactly what's going on. So when he gives you that thing, you won't turn into another person. You'll turn into the same person.
You won't start to worship what he gave you.
Exactly.
What about you? You mentioned a word. I said this in Virginia the other day, that God revealed to me that he was the victim of adultery, that he had been cheated on for centuries, and it's so true. Does waiting communicate fidelity? Is that the way that you communicate that you are focused? And is it a way you express your faithfulness?
Yeah, because I won't leave you if you don't do this for me. I won't leave you if you don't give me this when I ask for it. But I am willing to remain in the place of waiting and remain connected to you and remain faithful to you, even if you give it to me, if you don't give it to me. And so I think that sometimes if we get what we desire too fast from God, it can cause us to leave God. I told somebody this when they were searching for jobs, and they were searching for God to just turn things around in their lives, and they were fasting and praying and really focused on God, but it was centered around what they desired God to do and not their desire just to remain close to God. And so I told them, if you don't allow that to be dealt with now, as soon as you get what it is you desire, you're going to leave God. And as soon as they got what it is they desired, they left God. No more fasting, no more praying, no more studying the word. And so while you were begging God to be faithful to you, there was a part of your heart that was only faithful to God based upon what he could do for you.
Jesus. I think it makes you refined and genuine. At the end of it, you said something about starving, and in the midst of starving, it's funny how you could say you're hungry for all of this stuff, but the longer you go without eating, you start realizing that I don't need a full platter. I just need substance. I just need need something of some weight. I don't need a whole platter. I don't need a full course meal. I just need something to sit on my belly. And I think it's very much that expression that God is trying to get us to see. What you desire to eat is not necessarily what you need to eat. And when you go starving for so long, you start realizing that I don't need what I desired. I need what you want from me.
So that section on how God builds worshipers is God doesn't want a worshiper that's unwilling to wait on him. He doesn't want one.
One thing that's attached scripturally to the waiting, that's strength. That they wait upon the Lord shall renew strength. There's a level of strength that we need as worshipers. There's a level of strength that we need to be who God has called us to be. That comes only in that wait, only in that time of sitting and being prepared and being refined and being dealt with and dealing with and doing away with the things that we desire more. That strength that comes upon us, or that strength that we gain in that wait, is ultimately in preparation of to take us where we're going.
That's good.
I think. I got Elder Ben. I have to let Elder Ben got something. Come on, Elder.
Also heard, if you don't learn how to wait, you'll never respect God's sovereignty. So when God
could smack the new dread out your head. Say that again, son. Wait a minute. Say that, not because I'm a preacher.
If you don't learn how to wait, you'll never respect God's sovereignty. And God does not want God does not care for anybody that does not want to respect His sovereignty. He won't elevate you. He won't progress you. He probably won't even speak to you. And in the worst case scenario, He'll do exactly what He was talking about and turn you over to your desires.
That's scripture, sir.
That is. He'll turn you over to it because He knows, okay, this one is not one that can respect my sovereignty. This one is not one that can respect my no. So because you don't want my no, I'll just give you your yes and it'll cause you too fast.
You can't.
Give them a king because they want a king, huh? They don't want a God. They don't want a God.
When I tell you that thing just knocked the taste out of me, if you don't like waiting, you cannot respect His sovereignty. Does He really, can you really achieve friendship with God if you have not learned to respect His no?
Now that's good.
I got to take a minute.
That's good.
Because I wasn't ready.
You really do know God, don't you? You really know Him.
That's why He talks about.
He reads the biblical.
Those that seek my face, He wants those that want His sovereignty.
You can't achieve friendship with that. My God.
I mean, that was good.
All right. I respect your sovereignty. And if you don't tell me you adore me again. Don't tell me you love me again. Don't tell me you trust me. God gonna say, put them hands down in the sanctuary.
That's right.
You're not telling the truth.
Because you don't respect my sovereignty.
His sovereignty. I need to go get a shirt.
My no, I'll give you your yes and still cause you to fail. I'm going home.
I cannot. This thing is good though.
Yikes.
And it's scripture. That's scripture, man of God.
I honestly think that
That hit me and my spleen. It's
I honestly
leaking.
think that God's power is also demonstrated in the waiting. If you look at when Paul had the thorn in his flesh and he prayed, he said, I prayed to God, asked him to remove it 3 times. And God did remove it. It was in the waiting where God demonstrated not only revelation, but God demonstrated that it's in you waiting. It was in your waiting for you, for me to remove this thorn that was in your flesh, where I was able to give you the revelation that, my grace is sufficient. So it's in the waiting where God shows that He's really gracious. It's in the waiting where God gives you that revelation to show Him or show you that He is sovereign.
Yeah, I think that one of the ways, we were talking about how God trains worshipers. Now we're going to talk about how the church should train worshipers. But I think one of God's greatest frustrations with His people, because they may be different from those that are not His yet, but one of God's frustrations with His people is that they won't let Him grow them up. And without waiting, it is impossible to mature. You may become somebody that holds a lot of principles, a lot of concepts, but God can't grow you if He can't make you wait. It's one of the reasons why toddlers have hissy fits, because they want it now. And but a sign of maturity is you know how to postpone what it's delayed gratification, and He ends up making you wait. So one of the ways that God creates worshipers or builds worshipers is through teaching them to wait. Let's talk about how the church should train worshiper. I'm going to start with this. I don't think that an attempt to build a worship culture in a church will succeed beneath its head. So what happens is the attitude of many pastors is, let me hire somebody, bring in somebody, get a consultant, send to a school, get some training, and let them bring something in the midst of this environment that I built, or kind of to teach my church a new set of skills. But I don't think that real culture is something that is crafted by the head of a thing, and it is demonstrated by the head of a thing. It is exhibited by the head of the thing. So one of the consistent challenges with training the church and providing worship culture in the church, and that includes all of the various types of songs that we'll go into, all of the various ways of song, is that it's difficult for a body to receive a value for something that is underemphasized or not displayed by its head. And I think our approach to worship in the church has been do what I say and not as I do, and that has never allowed for health or effect of anything. And so my experience is there a problem when the pastor is not a part of the worship service? 100%. I don't, in my traveling even, I really dislike being magically whisked into the service after worship. I actually feel like it's difficult for me to arbitrarily pull a word from an environment that was not in the building. I think that what makes for effective preaching and teaching is that a person should be involved in the environment to know what God is doing and saying, so that he can know if the word he practices at home is the thing that God is saying, and so that he can know how to reach into what God is already doing in the room and articulate what he's doing. There's always a word circling over the house, but without being in worship, you'll give them what you got in your hotel room, and that may or may not be what he's expressing or articulating. And so my challenge is, if we're going to teach the importance of being and building a worshiping church, step number one, the leader must become a worshiper. The leaders must have a heart of worship. And one of the practical ways you can do that as a leader, as a pastor, is create quality time for the presence of God. Now, this may be controversial because I know a lot of worshipers, to be very honest, that are extremely disorderly. I mean, they think that the only thing you're supposed to do is just spend time with God and that's all that matters. But it is insulting to think that worship can stop, or worship stops with the end of the song. When you are a worshiper, everything you do is worship. When I'm fighting, I'm worshiping. When I'm loving my wife, I'm worshiping. I'm submitting. I mean, God is a king. So if I fight his enemies in his name, it is an act of worship unto a king. So what I feel like has to happen is that a worship or a pastor of our house should make time in his services for quality time with God. And I think that you can do that and have it be timed. So I'm not one of those that are against saying we'll worship for this amount. I just feel like if it's apparent that God is preaching his own sermon, then you shut up. You're not a better preacher than him, and then you let worship take its course. At All Nations, we have done that probably more often than not, and it has not been a turnoff from people unless they had other issues going on. So step number one is that the leader has got to become a worshiper. He's got to become somebody that enjoys drinking deeply in the presence of God. He's got to develop an eye for when a song has provoked the hand of the Lord in a meeting and provoked his presence and provoked his exhaling in a building. And he has to also allow for his congregation to understand that that is just as important, if not more, than what he's got to say. How should and how does a church train worshipers and worship culture?
Through sonship and submission. Every leader is not going to be a son of the house, because maybe that leader may not be called to be a spiritual son or a spiritual daughter. However, there comes a time when they have to learn submission. But there's also this thing called sonship, where you have to learn the heart of the Father. So I believe that some churches have too many people in leadership, but that person in leadership doesn't have the heart of that spiritual leader. David, God tells us all the time, he was the apple of his eye, but David carried the heart of God because he spent time with him. And so I think it's very important that leaders become sons. Leaders understand what it means to submit, good seasons, bad seasons, when you don't feel like it, when things are chaotic, when things may not, you may not feel like you're up to par. I think it's very mandatory that we learn how to submit to the leader and to the house.
How do we develop worship culture?
I think that we have to place a focus on measuring or examining the hearts of those who we desire to place in that position. Someone who doesn't understand love, loyalty, somebody who has been bastardized, somebody who is not connected to the vision of the house as somebody who cannot. I mean, in worship, you get instructions, and so if you can't follow the instructions of your leader naturally, then how can I trust that you're going to follow the instructions of God and leading His people to His presence? And so we have to examine the hearts of people and make sure that their hearts are pure, centered around God, and most importantly, centered around the direction that God is taking the house.
I think one of the issues or the conflicts with building worship culture is restriction. What is going to provoke a worship culture may look a bit disorganized to people in the sense that you need to allow space for people to express themselves. Now, I'm not talking about in the spirit. I'm talking about literally. So if people in your church, as far as a pragmatic worship culture, feel like the only way they can express themselves is in their seats, then it's not going to give you for full expression of worship culture. I will never build a church that doesn't have ample altar space for people to have their conversation and moment with God and not be restricted by a seat. I don't consider it disorderly, but I'm not your typical pastor. At our church, it is a general common part of our culture that it is very normal to walk up to the altar and to bow and to jump and to dance. And when people come out of religion in Egypt, when they come in, it almost offends people, because somewhere we were taught that the front of the church is holy and you rope it off for when Jesus returns, and you don't walk across it because somehow that's disrespectful or out of order. But most of those people are old and lifeless and still anyway that believe that way. It's just religious. We do some stuff like that and it makes no sense. At our church, during worship, people are at the altar without an invitation. They bow. They may go to a corner. They can lay on their face. They can get on their knees. And it's very much so a part of worship culture. So because worship culture has to do with things that are practical, I think one of the hindrances is the lack of the ability to express. There is no dancing. There is no jumping. You don't have banners and flags and stuff. Yet you go to any other fest where something worth celebrating is there, and people have banners, things that they love, what team they're on. They have horns and things. So I believe that a practical thing that you should do if you are attempting to create a worship culture, number one, you've got to preach it and you've got to teach it, because once you proclaim it, then you can explain it, and once you can explain it, then people can conceptualize it in their mind and they can model it. People are not going to develop a hunger for what you refuse to preach. That's the power of the pulpit. So you preach it, it develops hunger, and then you give them opportunity. You want them to come off in the front, bow, dance. Don't just let the glitter girls do it. Allow for them to model a way to express yourself in the Lord. Because let me tell you something about the dance. Dancing before the Lord has the power to break the assignment of lust off your life. If you can command your body in what to do in God's presence, you can tell it what to do outside of His presence. Worship is body training. That's why there's so much instruction in the book of Acts about what to do with your body. Lift your hands, bow, wave your hands, Shabbat. Why? Because it's about training your members, and there is no appropriate environment on telling your body to respond to your command and your decision other than worship. So we're not people who worship only from our seats. If you want to do that, fine. But a practical thing of worship culture is you got to have the space. Okay. Any other pragmatic things about worship culture? Practical stuff. From a musician standpoint, does not enough musicians possibly compromise the quality of a worship experience?
Yes, and sometimes yes. I would say when there's a lack of, that just leaves one person to sometimes do all of the work.
Pressure on that one minstrel.
Yes, on that one minstrel.
Right.
I think there should be a team of minstrels where you have maybe your guitarist, you have your pianist, you have your bassist, then you have your percussion, you have your horn section.
Do you feel like multiple sounds from musicians enhance the worship culture?
Yes, I do believe that. You may have a sound that may be calling for, you need something that's triumphant, majestic. Yeah. There are different instruments that take care of that. So you'll use more of your brass section, let's say your horns, your trumpets, to bring in that sound, that majestic sound.
So can you really say you have experienced the breadth, BREADTH, or the width of a worship experience with an organ and a drum alone?
No.
Because the question that we've got to ask is, are all those the sounds in heaven?
No.
And those aren't the only sounds.
So you probably need
that you need
multiple musicians.
Right. You need strings. You need string. You need wind. You need brass. Yeah. You need everything.
Somebody said, "What if God ain't giving you a dance?" It's not biblical for God to give you a dance. God ain't the one dancing. So the Holy Ghost don't have to give you the dance. You dance as an act of your decision. The devil didn't make you step. The devil didn't make you do a cheerleading dance. Dancing is a decision of the human heart.
Thank you. One of the things really quickly.
She said, "What if God don't give you a dance, but everybody dances? They dance because they want to.
What if God
the Spirit don't." A dance does not necessarily, in the Bible, a dance didn't have to be inspired by the Spirit. It was an expression of celebration and a decision of your body. All right. Ben, talk to me, because I'm concerned. Glory to God. I'm a pastor who feels like in order to enhance the worship experience, I really do believe you need multiple musicians. That's my heart. Yeah. My personal opinion and my personal model is that you really should invest more in musicians than a lot of other areas that the church does, because I think we need sound. It creates it, right? Talk to us about the power of multiple musicians.
I got two things. One is gonna probably offend a lot of people, and one is probably gonna help. Some do the one that's gonna help you first. When you have multiple musicians, I've never done it, but like after talking about it, like I want to go home and do it. Like we should do an instrument search on every instrument that David listed in the song.
Certainly.
And then even if we did all of that, we
still have a
whole lot more sounds now today than David did. I mean, to all the musicians on the Periscope, if you got a Motif XF8, you got a whole list.
Now wait a minute, Elder BJ, do you have a Motif?
I don't have a Motif XF8.
Young man, I don't know what a motive. You talking about motives? If I have the motive of my heart, what are you talking about?
Motification. I got a recorder.
Now wait, here go one of the sons of my right hand.
No, you're
Hold
not.
on, look. He gonna walk in the revelation. Look at this. Look at this. Everybody. Oh no, that's me. We in the middle of a deep Periscope of worship. You talking about some where's the chicken? Tell them who you is, man.
Hi, my name is Ryan, and
come through, Lionel.
No, I have to get me clean.
All right, so this is a good conversation for you two. He is also a member of All Nations. Just thought I would tell you that.
Yeah.
I saw I made that clear. Keep going. You're making some great points. Go ahead.
Just do like there's just. You're not just gonna hear piano in heaven.
Nope.
You get to heaven, you're gonna hear some crazy.
Here's a question: does different instruments amplify different sides of the personality of God?
Absolutely. Yes.
You need the drum.
You wanna go on? Hey, you go on.
You ever hear? Okay, this just came to my head. You ever hear people say stuff like, "We're going to another place in God.
Right.
We're going to another a place, a new dimension, a new level."
Right.
Now, just hold that thought, right?
Okay.
If I got some bells and I started playing them on the keys,
yes, Lord,
it might take you to a different place in the earth. And so I believe that there are different sounds and different technologies that when they resonate, they take you to a different place in God, which is why multiple musicians are necessary.
Yes,
and here's what's going to offend a lot of people. If payroll wasn't such a necessity, I believe that there should be enough musicians so that they can rotate. You shouldn't be. I think there should be enough musicians so that they can rotate, so that the musicians, they don't just die rely on their instrument, you know, but they get a chance to
Open
express
your
their
mouth.
body and express their
So you believe, Basia, you believe that musicians should be training musicians?
multiplication.
Is that biblical?
It is biblical.
Talk to me about how musicians train musicians in the house of the Lord.
And the way David trained these musicians, when he would raise up musicians, he would first teach them how to prophesy. He would first teach them how to
and we ain't even got to the different types of songs. As a matter of priority, David made sure before they got to strumming and banging on stuff that they could hear from the Lord. Keep going, Ben.
Because if they can hear from the Lord, if they have command over if you aren't prophetic, if you don't have command over the atmosphere, you're worthless in worship. You have no point. You need to find another place in the church to go mess with and go tamper with. Because if you're not prophetic, you have no government over the atmosphere.
Right.
You have no government over
Because
the
it is, if you're going to have a conversation about instrumentation, you are talking about government.
Exactly.
Music does tell the atmosphere what to do.
Which is exactly why David could play and evil spirits would leave out of Saul.
Because the atmosphere was that music's and not that demons.
Exactly.
Whoa. So let's talk about the assault on musicians. Is there a deliberate, do we agree there's a deliberate assault on musicians and musical people? And if so, what is it? Reese, what do you think?
I believe we deal with first lust, perversion, and all of the other things that come along with that. And so through that, the enemy tries to kill off a lot of them with having, of course, your baby mama drama, and then the inordinate affections of what they are longing for and what they're looking for. I think that's just maybe one of them. But then they also deal with depression.
Why?
Because they feel all they have to give is what they're worth and what people have made them.
Do you find that it's a general truth that musically, I pastor them, right? Mm-hmm. Do you find that in different variations and on different levels that all musically inclined people are innately sensitive?
Yes,
they just wear it. So because of those sensitivities, do they have a proclivity that lends to them being unstable during hard times or hard seasons, or what? Is that why they have depression?
Yes, sir. They have. I would say so. And stability for, I'll just say, I wouldn't even call them a minstrel yet, just a musician. And the way that they, kind of, I guess what I would say approach, they take their emotions and, mask them in different types of ways.
Do you think all musical people have similar makeups as people, or no?
No, I just think they have similar enemies.
Yeah.
I think the number one enemy over musicians is seduction.
Certainly.
Because it's not even lust and perversion. It's really I think the real strong man is seduction, because that's
saying what can draw them.
Exactly.
In different ways, huh? Mm-hmm. So physically.
Yep.
What about with careers? Because I'm gonna just be transparent. One of my immediate concerns with all musical people is how long they're gonna be faithful to the Lord. Yeah. And at what point they're gonna sell out. But that is a issue of seduction. Why is that common? Is it because God created them to have a heart that attracts? What is it about musical people that makes them prey to that?
I think it's ultimately a lack of identity. Yep. A lot of musicians, just for whatever reasons, don't know who they are in God, and they struggle at finding who they are in God. And most musicians who are good, people will give you almost whatever type of money that you want, and you end up in a situation where the person who's over and governing you does not care that you know who you are, because you knowing who you are may possibly make you leave him. So I believe that attack on identity is major amongst musicians.
Yeah, that identity thing is for real, because I think a lot of musicians just become their instrument. Mm-hmm. And I would say lately in my own personal time of worship, God has been drawing me off of the keyboard and off of the guitar. He's like, okay, I hear you do that all the time, but you're not a keyboard. You're not a guitar. God is like, bow, pray, sing, do something. So it's God's presence is where you find your identity. So lately I would find that I'll be playing.
Father, I lift up Ben's wife to you right now in the name of Jesus. She's not coming right now. Put your hands down. Keep talking.
Yeah, but I believe like in God's presence you find your identity, and I believe for real musicians, when you're in your personal time to worship, you should not be on your instrument more than you're on your face.
What do you guys feel? I'm biased to this because I got some specific questions for Prophet Book over here. What do you guys feel about unpastored musicians, and should a person be considered a worship leader aside from a relationship with the local church? One of my common questions for people when they get famous or when music does them well, I always want to know who's their pastor and what church did they go to. At some point in your success as a musician, do you no longer need the local church or the local pastor?
You always need the local church or the local
Reese,
pastor.
don't get upset.
I'm sorry. You know, I think one of the things is that, you know, we have a lot of musicians out here, and a lot of people with great talent, and a lot of people with great skill who are not pastored. And
does it show up in the quality of their person?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Can you tell an unpastored musician?
Yes, you can, because one they're hireling. They'll come in the door, and the next person who will give them maybe $5 more, they'll walk right out your door.
That's true.
I think one thing you're finding amongst unpastored musicians, especially in the city of Chicago, is they suck as husbands. A lot of them, because they don't know how to submit to somebody. Well, there's nobody for, even in a situation, there's nobody for the wife to go and say, hey, you're having a little situation right now. So it's like, okay, there's nothing governing me, so I'll go out.
But is it a dual conversation though? Can we say you musicians don't want to be pastored, or can we say you pastors have not pastored musicians?
I think it's kind of both.
I would say
because I'm gonna tell you, and at the church I grew up in, all the musicians was going to hell, with the exception of maybe one. None of them were saved. None of them, and it was okay. They were paid. They had finger waves. I mean, live-in boyfriends, all of them. But have shepherds been negligent to musicians?
I believe it didn't start off that way though.
Come on, let's go.
I believe it started off with the need. So, you know, there's a lot of churches that are trying to grow,
right,
but they don't have the resources to get minstrels and stuff like that.
Right.
So they'll settle for
somebody who's available.
And maybe not shepherd them the way they're supposed to.
Right.
Because they're scared, like, okay, if I offend them, they might leave my church. Or if I try
and I
to
need
deal with
this
their
skill.
soul and I try to help them, I need their skill to keep my church going. So I think that's where it started. But nowadays, in today's world, in 2015, 2016, now we have pastors that just don't really care. You know, I'll pay you to do this, and you walk out after worship. I think it's offensive for a musician to play for worship and not sit through the message. I think you should sit there.
You are the minister of music officially. You done went up 3 levels tonight. I ordained you. I married you. And now you're the minister of music officially. God bless you.
Especially when it comes to altar calls and stuff like that. So like you should not be
so disrespectful.
outside of the message. How are you gonna?
Gotcha.
So if you're
gonna make me fight,
and you're supposed to have government over the atmosphere, how do you know what's in the atmosphere if you weren't in it? How do you know what's in the atmosphere if you weren't sitting in the message? You don't know what to play. You don't know what sounds you should be hearing. You should be hearing sounds as you're sitting through the message.
So Ryan, you are a world renowned artist, worshiper. I think all of those are different. I repent. Synonyms for who and what you really are. They help you to be it, right? But you know a lot of people. In your experience, can you tell an unpastored musical person when you meet them?
Wow, great question.
Do you notice that somebody has been unpastored?
You can notice if somebody's been unpastored. Those who've been pastored have a certain loyalty to you, even are committed to going there to help birth the sound that's in the house. They have a certain thing that, a certain sound to what worship is. Right. There's some people who play at what you're doing. And those people who play at what you're doing
I'm sorry.
Exactly. Are kind of, and it doesn't matter the complexity of your music. It's all about the spirit behind it. So there's some people who, I've heard people play you know, certain, like I have songs I heard people play certain things, you know, play even my music, but they'll play at it.
Apostle Josh said, wait on God.
But I'm telling you, there are people who play at it but don't understand the place of it.
And is that important? Do you need to understand the origin of that sound and that lyric and that word?
You do have to, because I believe that anything you play, anything that you sing should give you an out-of-body experience in a sense. It should really take you away from like what your natural thing is. It's like every time I'm going into it, I come out a different person. It's like it's a completely different kind of thing. So if there's somebody who does not want to become intimate with that sound, they just want to play at the sound because I just need a piece of it, give me a shot of it, and then I'll just come back out.
Let's talk about the categories of songs. So you got the song of the Lord, you got the song of the bride, you got the songs of deliverance. Let's develop a working for each of these songs and why they are needed today. What are your experience with the different types of songs?
I think one of the most misconstrued or misunderstood songs would be the Song of the Lord. I think a lot of people, because of the categories of songs, that one just sounds to be the nicest. This is
which one is that one?
Song of the Lord.
Song of the Lord.
This is the Lord's song. So when I get up,
so what is the Song of the Lord?
The Song of the Lord is a
because there's a lot of people talking about it, and I'm finding that most people talking about it mainstream have no clue what they're talking about.
Absolutely. So the Song of the Lord is a song sang.
They think it's a spontaneous song where you just sing something off, but it's not.
That's
Go ahead.
exactly what I was getting at. This is a song sang directly from the heart of God to His people.
In His language.
In His language.
From His intent. So it's a message from the Lord.
Yes.
To the people, so the difference is the direction.
It's not interchangeable with spontaneous song. Spontaneous song is a song that out of your joy, out of what you're feeling in the moment, you birth the song
out of the fullness of your, or the intoxication of your heart.
Exactly.
You come up with lyrics to a song. Talk about the Song of the Lord.
Side note: you have to be prophetic to sing the Song of the Lord. So if you ain't prophetic, that's not the song.
Did you hear that? That boy come from 6028 Champlain. Yeah, you do have to be prophetic to sing the song of the Lord. He won't even let me get to the prophets in worship yet because you just can't. They're just so inseparable. You've got to be prophetic for you to sing the song of the Lord, because without the ability to hear from heaven, you're not going to be able to translate it. All right. So let's say, what are the benefits of the Song of the Lord, Elder B?
Come on, that's what we all gonna say. Come on, Ben. What are the benefits of us?
Minister the benefits.
The Song of the Lord. I think the Song of the Lord, when it's done properly, it has the ability to accomplish what God wants to accomplish.
Yeah. What does it achieve?
It brings you to a place of focusing on where it is that God wants to take you, and what it is that God wants to do with the environment, with the atmosphere, with the service, and with you personally. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a major benefit of the Song of the Lord. It centers you on.
They say you are a pro at that.
Am I really?
That's what they're saying on praise.
Oh yeah, you rock.
It centers you on what it is that God is doing, what it is that God.
Naomi Rain, we love you and you belong.
Oh yes, you do, man.
How about that? You belong.
You be playing that guitar.
What is this song? Give me your understanding of the Song of the Lord. Then we'll talk about another one. I'm talking about you, Elisha.
Oh, okay. All right. From time to time, at least all right, don't you do it. I will call the she-bears. At least from time to time, majority of the songs that I do get are songs of the Lord, and it certainly is
a song from God to His people.
Exactly.
You want to give us an example?
No. That's not. That's a song of the bride. A song of the Lord would be the song. It's a very sad song. It's like I don't even have a voice for it.
The Lord gave you a sad song.
No, it was depicting God's.
And you know, a lot of the people that start this song, but I don't have a voice.
I actually, you heard me coughing over here the whole scope.
Humility.
But it says, how can you break my heart and turn it away? How can you take my love and cast it to another place? How can you reject my warm embrace? I have no voice
Yeah,
right
if the
now.
Lord sang that to me, I would cry.
Yeah, but it's so
lift my hands and say,
the
Lord,
verse
I
says,
didn't mean
carelessly enjoying the spoils of the world, as the voice of conviction begins to sound faint. I can't get to half part, but it's
so here's the deal: is what the things they're showing us is that, like prophecy, the song of the Lord has the power to confirm, affirm, convert. It can deal with the present of a thing, the past of a thing, or the future of a thing. I liken it to this: when God told Saul in his prep to be king, go up to the Mount Gibeah, you're going to find a group of prophets, but a special species of prophets. These were not writing or oracular or power prophets. We didn't see a miracle amongst them. We didn't see journals, or what we saw them doing was singing and dancing. So that species of prophet sang over and about Saul. That, I believe, was how God got him that new heart, was through the incision made in his life by the song. All we see was that God gave him a heart as a byproduct of his encounter with those singing prophets. But if you're singing the song of the Lord, you probably are dealing with a person's condition, dealing with their fears or where they've been, interpreting where they are, but also announcing what God is saying about where you're headed. That was how God qualified him to be king, was by sending him around prophets who knew the power of the song of the Lord. Anybody else about the song of the Lord? Reese, you often prophesy in the song. That's what the priests don't look like that. There's a lot of times Reese actually, Reese is so energized to the mantle upon my life. He can put it in different places. He's been doing that literally since the early 2000s. And but so he has learned to prophesy on and by music. How the heck does that work? If I call out to you in a service and say, and this is still in the category of the song of the Lord, if I say, come on, Reese, begin to prophesy on harps, like the Bible says, how do you do that?
I pull up the harps. I dial it in. And
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Dial them in.
Naturally and spiritually, he dials them in.
So what ends up happening as far as on my instrument?
What happens to you when you get the word of the Lord through music?
When I go, well, something really does happen.
You don't know this man.
Take us through it.
Okay, so as I'm listening to the word, sounds are starting to flood.
And you literally play what you hear.
And I play what I hear. Wow. And so through the sounds being flooded, not to my memory bank, but being downloaded real quick, I try to emulate what's happening.
Musicians like you have to teeter-totter on the realm of genius and sanity, because there's no way in the world you could translate through your hands and process what you're singing at the same hearing at the same exact time. That has to be a principle of genius. Ben, how do you do it? Like if you have a prophecy to deliver without words, and you achieve that through your instrument, what is that process like?
The process is like, honestly, I hear a sound, I just hear sounds and I just play them. I just try to play what I hear, which is why I always emphasize skill and schooling. Because I never want to, I hate to take it there.
Does it help you prophetically?
Yes, because I never want to be in a place.
It broadens your options, doesn't it?
I never want to be in a place where God gives me a sound that I cannot play.
Wow.
Yeah. Woo! Where there was an interference, huh?
Exactly.
He said, I never want to be in a place where God gives me a sound.
Could that be a frustrating thing? Where God is releasing, or you're hearing a sound that's articulating the mood of heaven, and you not find the skill set to be able to reach to articulate it?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. It's almost like trying to prophesy without any breath.
Or words, right?
Right, or words, exactly. So it's almost
that
like
is so profound.
Yeah, it's almost like it almost feels like my fingers are choking. You know, like I can't get. I know what I'm trying to say. I just can't say it. You know. So that's why that's why
Somebody
David
said
second place
you
is
made
go
them scream and scare their grandma in the other room.
Oh Lord, wait.
All right. Of the Lord. Let's deal with the song of deliverance. The book of Exodus says that the first category, the first type of song was a song of deliverance or a song of war. What is a song of deliverance and what is a song of war? What is a song of deliverance?
Ryan? Dr. Ryan?
Oh, you talking to me? I'm looking like, oh, okay, because he was pointing. So when you start thinking about the, I'm sitting on the floor like I'm in my house. Okay, so when you start thinking about a song, which one gonna go first? Deliverance or war?
Do war.
Oh, teach us the difference, Professor. Oh, he's in a trance right now.
Y'all was messing me up. All right, here we go. So we talked about the song of deliverance. I believe that deliverance comes with a sound also. There's times where, of course, at All Nations we have our and I believe that it's preparing us. I believe that a sound prepares us for the war that happens with deliverance, because then, like, as we're like singing the song of the Lord, and then we move and shift into a song of deliverance. You know, it comes with a sound first.
Yeah. What does the song of deliverance say?
A song of deliverance say, "Come out, stop that."
Hey, come on out.
That is the message of a song of deliverance, huh?
I think it has a lot of declaration in it too. I think a song of deliverance is very much.
To whom is it directed?
I think it's directed to the people.
Alone?
Oh no. Not at all.
I think it's directed to the people, but it's also a declaration to the enemy.
Yeah.
To say that what you thought you were going to do or what your plans were.
So you mean to tell me there is a form of musical expression that is also used as a weapon against enemies and their impending threats towards a people, person, or place?
Yeah. That's so good.
Give me, is there a biblical example of that? The Horse and the Rider.
The Horse and the Rider is one of them.
What about Deborah's song?
I don't remember Deborah's song.
What happens? You better know Deborah. You don't write another song till you know Deborah's song.
I'm getting Deborah's song as I think about it. It's coming to me.
The Song of Moses.
Yes.
The Song of Deborah.
Are we talking about the songs that taunt the enemy, kind of?
Or the songs, yeah, but the songs that end up, they accomplish a lot of things, because here's the deal: if a song of deliverance or a song of war breaks out, it is going to bring courage to the people, but it will also cause their adversaries to cower. So it accomplishes two things at once. Because if the people believe we are impenetrable and undefeatable because of this message of war or the ability of our God or God's whatever, and that thing is enough to loosen the grip of an enemy, then it achieves two things at once, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen a song of deliverance literally emancipate somebody?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
How did it happen?
Go ahead, Isaac. Singing over a lady who was actually bound by illness, saw her like literally like demons started manifesting, a fear started manifesting. She was able to walk away with like grown hair, and her hair had fallen out from chemotherapy. So like you saw like literal manifestation of hair growing back from, and her faith in conquering cancer was growing in that moment.
Because of the song.
Because of the song, and literal hair started growing out.
Yeah. Anybody else? Like, has anybody had a very powerful deliverance moment and a song was the the mood that set it for deliverance? Hutchinson, not available. Come on, Kenny, you got a song all the time. You. I'm gonna zoom in on you.
Sometimes you get like a third of it. It's so like then you don't see it happening. I don't know. it's just weird because it's like you feel it. There's the faith that you believe that it's happening because God is speaking it to you at that moment and giving you exactly what to say and sing. And sometimes it's like, well, I'm not exactly this is not me looking at somebody and say, I see it coming out. It's me saying, okay, Lord, this is the sound and this is the song that you're calling for. And then, you know, unless someone comes up and tells you about it.
So there is an inevitable relationship between worship and war.
Yes.
The two are permanently inseparable.
I've seen songs of deliverance open up the atmosphere or release courage in the atmosphere to seek God for certain things to be accomplished.
So true, because it stirs the heart.
We would break out into a song of deliverance or declaring healing or deliverance or chains breaking or something in an atmosphere, and it would give us the courage to start calling for literal healing services. If you've got a tumor or growth or whatever, come to the altar. So I think songs of deliverance, it breaks fear and it opens up the atmosphere for the miraculous to happen. It gives the people the courage to believe for God to do the impossible.
So is it? Go ahead, Reverend.
Deliverance is more like I always see it as like a bridge to an event. So it's almost like, so when you tell somebody to kind of recall the song of deliverance, people remember the event that happened as a result of that.
It's very profound.
Yeah, so like when the song of deliverance is released, that opens the door for healing, that opens the door for miracles.
Which is the event.
Exactly.
And the song of deliverance ends up being the prelude.
Yeah.
So the song of the bride ends up being like the song of submission and surrender and cooperation and agreement. And it is normally in response to the song of the Lord, right?
Yeah.
So it is a conversation that is continued where a congregation responds to something that the Lord has said via the song of the Lord. Right. What amount of skill is needful to sing the song of the bride? And should you sing the song of the bride before the song of the Lord?
I think you need a repentant heart, and you need just a low posture to be able to sing the song of the bride before God.
Somebody say they really forgot y'all were musicians because y'all know more than the pastors.
No.
It's true.
But I think you just need a lowly, meek posture in order to sing the song of the bride, because you can't in any shape, form, or fashion sing that correctly proud.
Right.
Sing that correctly in a standing posture.
Reminded
with that song that break my heart with what breaks your heart. I'm hoarse. But the words break my heart with what breaks your heart. Help me see what you see. Make me more into a worshiper. Help my doubt and unbelief.
That is the communication of the song of the bride.
Yeah.
So the song of the bride is a song of cooperation, of submission, of yieldedness.
Yeah.
It's a song of following.
Yeah.
It is normally in response to the song of the Lord, from the song of the Lord. Let's talk about new songs. I personally think that now all of them are prophetic, but I personally think that new songs are the most common type of song because they spring out of if you sing something so long and you begin to intoxicate your heart off of the wine of that environment, and then out of it comes more things to say in response. What is the power of a new song? Sing unto the Lord a new song. So a spontaneous song, new song. What's the power of that, Dr. Booker?
Why am I the one to go? Well, it's spontaneous and new songs, because new songs, I believe, should be birthed often. If you're singing unto the Lord a new song, it's something that should be birthed often.
As long as there's a new season, there should be new songs.
Yes, and there should be a birthing of them. I think that even as a worship leader, it's important that we strive to birth that new song. I'm not saying that the songs that we have aren't the songs of the house. We can't re-sing certain things, but I believe that God is speaking something fresh. And a lot of times we don't have environments where we can be fresh. Like a lot of worship leaders, they copy the Hill songs, they copy those type of people. And they're not understanding that God wants to birth a new song in them. So they get to a place where they start singing those things over and over, chorusing the same things over and over again, but not realizing that, hey, God is trying to break through a new song in you. And it goes back to the identity piece, not knowing who you are, but finding your identity based off of a copy that you sing. Which worship artist that is out right now fits my style, that's where I go. That's the sound that I have. And so then you're trying to birth an identity off of something that God has already birthed in them. And so then it goes back to what we say in our church. Great men and women.
You better say that.
For the time in which they are needed the most.
Y'all mean to tell me?
Every time you walk into the presence of the Lord, every time you sing into the presence of the Lord, you're designed for that time and that moment. So it's important for us to be.
So a new song also expresses design.
It does express design. And everybody's new song is not the same. There is, you take, let's just go right here. You take Ken's song, and then you take Isaac, and then you take mine. It's totally different. It's a totally different sound. You hear Ken stretch out in such a way that I've never seen. It's just like a fire. Fire. Then you see Isaac just come and just be the giant. But it's just like, but he woos God in such a way, you be like, whoa.
Come on, collective worshiping.
Here it is. And then I just scream and holler until like, give me the next song. But it's something that scopes.
Ryan is at this moment pioneering a sound that the earth
Ryan
is
is an architect, certainly.
Ryan is on the cusp of something that is not known in the industry, and is necessarily not known in churches around Chicago or around the world. This man is anointed by God to open up realms of heaven that we've not seen.
I think Ryan is a prophet to a time who happens to be a musician. Oh, is the stirring happening? All right, let's close with this one. Look, we all turned up. BJ, let's close with this. How important, this is for a pastor's sake when we're dealing with practically building a culture of worship. How important is it for prophets to be involved in worship? Okay, being Jesus. I mean, you've been trying to do that. Is it important? Is it not? You don't have nothing, Kenny? You sleepy?
No, I'm reading on the elder.
I want some revelation. Apostle, you are an apostle, so I'm gonna let you go first.
It's important.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about
Ben is an apostle.
I was like, come on, man of God.
He gonna rent the office.
Let me rent it for a minute.
Is it important?
Prophets have the responsibility of bringing direction into the atmosphere. Prophets have the ability to hear from God and to give instruction. And so I think that there has to be a marriage between the worship atmosphere and the prophet or prophetic people should be the ones running the worship atmosphere, because you have to have the ability to hear from God, hear instructions clearly from God, and then to be able to communicate them clearly from God. Worship, it is not about the person, so the prophet has to have the ability to be focused and centered on what God is saying and be able to properly communicate it. So it's important for the prophetic person to have a relationship submitted to God, which should always be the posture of the prophet, because that's who I get my instructions from. And so in the place of worshiping that God that I'm getting these instructions from, the prophet has to be able to direct that atmosphere in a way that points the people back to him.
Noel, is there a guardianship responsibility in worship? Like, does worship protect something? And if so, is that one of God's visions for placing prophetic people and prophets in a worship department?
I definitely think that prophets keep everything aligned so that we don't go astray, go off course. I just think they carry the heart of God.
How is that achieved musically?
Not sure. Just thinking with David, I know David would sing his own song into the Lord. 2 Samuel 22 talks about how David sang the words of his song to the Lord. And I think that a prophet's voice is very important. Again, it prepares the way. So
interesting.
And
Okay.
it's sensitive too.
Cool. Thank you.
It's sensitive too, because prophets, which I think is the best example to a worship department or worship, group or whatnot, to exemplify their actions and
what they do off of what a prophet does, how sensitive a prophet is, how stern a prophet is to conflict that may be in the environment, and how they switch gears, how prophets, immediately they can be in worship, but if they sense something, okay, we need to go somewhere else. I think it's extremely needful for that prophet to be there, because if not, then you have what you have. What you were saying about the worship team, you could be driving down the street on one thing, and God could be like, "No, get off. Let's go somewhere else. We need to go somewhere else because I desire to do more in this particular time." And
we talked earlier about the role of music. Reese, I got the camera on you.
Yes, sir.
The music touching memory and being a way to seat things in storage places in your life. If the conversation about worship also includes a conversation about idolatry, does a music department void of some type of prophetic representation run the risk of being open to various influences, idolatry otherwise, that could be undetectable by the non-prophetic eye? Is that too complex to ask?
No.
Anybody. I mean, if you don't have prophets, singing prophets, somewhere in the music vision of your church, is there a risk that it could be open to traffic from other deities?
Prophets have the authority to deal with idolatry, expose it, and to deal with it. And so if you are in an atmosphere that's void of that type of authority, then it's easy to steer off and to go off into other places that are separate from God.
So is it safe to say that having prophets as a part of the consciousness of the music temperature of a house safeguards it against distracted, deluded, or shared worship?
I think God is very intelligent in the way he sets up templates. And the way that God set up marriage in the sense of man and woman, the way that we see it, I believe in this situation we can make worship the woman and the prophet in this situation the man. That man's job in any marriage is to give vision. And together in that intimate place, which will be worship, something is birthed. In every house, when worship is happening and worship is being cultivated, and there's a culture for worship, there are things constantly being birthed. And it's the prophet's job to give vision and direction to those things that are being birthed out.
You risk too another spirit possibly leading that worship department.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up coming into a place that you think it's God, and because it's producing result, if you will. Because I've been in places or in other churches where it's produced result. They say the expression that, oh man, God failed today. So you get things like that where it brings about a praise where you would think it is God, but it very much may be a familiar spirit that may be leading you through pockets very much astray from God's designs.
In the book of 1st and 2nd Chronicles, David had a certain species of prophets, and many of them were also seers. You got Iddo, Jeduthun, Heman, Gad. They were all, and Nathan even. Many people don't know. Nathan was referred to as the king's seer, but he also wrote many of the Psalms and was highly involved in the Tabernacle of David. Why do y'all think the ministers of the future had music responsibility? Seers in the temple. And we'll close with that.
Because without a vision, the people perish.
Come on, Dr. Nike.
Every declaration, every song, every melody should have a vision. And the prophet is what supplies the vision. So good. And without a vision, the people perish. So if you don't have prophets in worship, your church is probably suffering from a disease called worship cancer, where you're dying slowly.
Father, heal the nation from the cancer of worship.
Because you're dying slowly because you have no vision. You're perishing.
The cells, Lord have mercy to God. That's a powerful point. The seers were normally involved in the sanctuary for worship. Wow. Could it be that also the worship is one of the ways God prepared people for the future?
Yes.
So worship has a relationship to future happenings.
He's the eternal God, and the prophets are supposed to be able to communicate what he wants. So why wouldn't he have somebody that's his spokesperson to be able to articulate what he wants to hear? He's very particular about what he wants. He was very particular with how he wanted stuff build, how he wanted things to go. So why wouldn't be particular about what he wants to hear as well? What better person to do it than his spokesperson?
I think worship progresses God's agenda as well, which is why it's needful for a prophet to be over it. Because
Come on,
who better?
Elijah.
Okay, but who better for the vision to be progressed, or for the vision to stay on task,
Right.
if you will? If a prophet is there,
And then the prophet also knows that Satan has his eye on it.
certainly.
Because Satan's been trying to get worship since before the garden.
My God, which is one of the main reasons too why Satan will not particularly kill a musician, but just turn them over, because they know the influence and they know the power, and it's not about stopping God's agenda. It's about progressing my agenda more so than God.
Certainly.
Attempting to pervert.
Exactly.
Certainly. So, because every major agenda in history was earmarked by its music. If you think about the civil rights music, every eras produced sounds. So there is no such thing as an agenda without a corresponding sound release, which is why revival has a sound. I knew he was gonna breathe on that one.
You know
Ryan,
what words are getting me going.
What is the correlation? We're gonna close on this because that Nacho is calling me.
Yes, God.
What is the relationship? Because this is what God is wanting for America right now. What is the relationship between worship and revival? I almost wanted the tongues of men and angels.
And the sound of I don't know, I didn't know where this came from, but in worship, and it's been happening so often where we keep releasing the sound of glory produces revival. Like the sound of glory releases revival. And it's like when the sound of God, when the voice of God, when God breathes on the sound, it's for a purpose. And I believe that wherever that prophet or whatever that worship leader is sanctioned, there is a sound that's meant to create or to build something. And so what is the correlation with revival? If you go and look at all the different types of revivals, there was always songs or music that came after it.
Mm-hmm.
So, everybody knows.
And that led to it.
That led to it. I mean, Mighty Fortress Is Our God came out of...
Come on, history.
Revival. And so you think about...
So is it your understanding that revival can be provoked?
I believe that this next sound in this next season is going to provoke revival. And it's coming from willing vessels, because it's not a sound that's popular. It's not a sound that can be compromised. But it's coming from a people that cannot be compromised. That's a part of a kingdom that can't be shaken. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry. I zoned out. And I started writing the song. Woo! Okay. But what I'm saying is, I started zoning out. But the sound of revival is going to provoke what's going to happen next for America. There's a sound that's being birthed, or a song that's being birthed, that's going to center the attention not on the enemy's agenda, but on God.
I just said earth to Ryan, dollar man Jesus. And that's so true.
But it's something that's going to literally supersede the enemy's agenda. And it's going to produce a sound that people are attracted to sounds that are, I guess, familiar or popular in that particular time. Yeah. There's going to be such a sound that's just going to be like an outburst. Yeah. So as soon as they hear it, it's kind of like I'm called to, like, I don't know what's this. It's a sound that's literally going to cause the people to cry out. And that's what I believe that's what's being birthed right now. It's literally like an explosion. Because I'm listening to like some of the things that God is just even speaking while we're in worship. It's just like literally there's going to be an explosion that's going to cause like I don't know. I guess I'm pushing for the next part of revival where the sound release. I don't know why I've been like really visualizing limbs and like seeing them literally come back.
Yeah.
I've been visualizing that lately. Like I've been praying, like, God, let us see those kind of things. But I believe there's a type of revival that's going to come that's literally going to transform America's mindset. Yeah. And it's literally going to cause the kingdom of God to rise up.
Yeah.
I believe that's where the power and sound of worship, and then where revival is going. that sound is literally going to cause an explosion. It's hard to come up with words. It's better in a song for me.
Okay. All right.
You have a guitar? No. Okay, no, we got to end this. But I believe that there is a sound of the sound that we're producing in worship, and we may not know all the details of it, but it's a sound that's going to produce war, and then that's going to cause an explosion that will then be an implosion in the people of this time, in this era, that they're going to see the heart, they're going to see God. They're going to literally see God like fire.
I think it's really like that point you made that last point of explosion and implosion. I think opposed to any other revival that may have happened in America, I think it's very much going to be that imploding that's going to happen. I think God is very much doing an inside blow up, which is why it's not really like catching fire and catching wind, but something is happening. There's certainly something happening, but it's not being broadcast. It's not being, mainstreamed, if you will. But I definitely do believe that it is this wildfire thing that's about to happen. And even as the relationship as it pertains to the worship and the revival, it seems like it's almost like a son of worship, if you will. It's always present at the right time. Now, you can be in worship in any environment, but there very well may not be revival set for that time due to God ordering things. But the particular time that we're in now, it's like literally needed for what's about to happen. And it's not always set, though. It's not always set. So to say that, worship and revival is always, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I would say that revival is always there with worship. And God allows it to open up at the time it's needed. So at the relationship dynamic for revival and worship, I would say worship would be the father of revival, if you will.
Anybody else with worship and revival?
I think that worship readies the heart for revival. Revival comes to accomplish something new. And it's like attempting to pour fresh wine in an old wineskin. And so worship has to deal with the idols. It has to deal with the old mindsets, the old places, the old processes, the old things to make you ready for something new to be accomplished. So I think that the emphasis is on worship now so that we can be prepared for the new thing that God is preparing to do.
Indeed. Wow.
I think, I'm going to close with this after I introduce everybody again. This is long and y'all stay faithful. I think the correlation of worship and revival is this. Is that in addition to provoking and welcoming and beckoning all of the things that we need to speak to the issues that are going on in our world, the most important thing worship is going to provide for us is an accurate template of what God looks like so as to give us a handle on what we are becoming in the earth. We're going to become what we behold. Beloved, it doth not yet appear what we shall become, but we do know this: when he appears, we will be like him because we have seen him as he is. So in worship, the more clearer our image of God becomes, the more we have our marching orders for what we are to be and what we are to do. And so the most dangerous cataclysmic portion of worship and revival is that it finally gives the believer the right plat of survey for what we should do and what we should be all in all. And that becomes dangerous in workplaces. That becomes dangerous in churches. That becomes dangerous in schools. That becomes dangerous in universities. That becomes dangerous in cities like Chicago. That becomes dangerous for believers to finally get a 3D image of what they're supposed to look like. So the God of heaven be upon your worship from now on. I really feel, I'm not going to tell you what I see for 2016. You got to register for Fire Conference to see that. But we're doing a school of worship during Fire Conference. A world-renowned producer, Elder Michael Witherspoon, will be dealing with us about the priestly order and during the school of worship at Fire Conference. But in 2016, we're going to watch the initial phases of God's hand move on the wings of worship. His next actions are going to be presented by the power of worship. So may there be a worship revolution in your church. There is one coming to mind. May there be one in yours, in your city, in that place, in that region, to change the season and to change the people. Worship is powerful. So this is a part of my heart. I'm going to reintroduce you to people. Hold on. This is Ryan Booker. Tell him your Periscope info.
All right, my Periscope info, Ryan Booker Music. Actually, no, that's not my Periscope. That's my Instagram. Periscope is RB Music.
And you scope very often, don't you?
I try to. My wife is making me do it more often.
And you play the piano and you sing and you write.
I play the piano, I sing, I write, I produce.
Oh, come on, write and you prophesy.
And I prophesy.
And you submit.
I submit.
You sound like the I know for myself lady.
I know for myself.
This is Isaac Tarver.
Good people.
Tell them where your Periscope is. You probably should start, but
I need
you
to.
got a lot to say about worship.
So my Periscope is the same as all of my social media, which is at Promise Tarver or Promise Tarver. So we're looking for a couple of scopes coming soon, now that I've been mandated to do so.
This is Dr. Kenneth Michael Knoll.
Everybody.
He worships too. He periscopes too. He was at school today at Santa Maria's at the Catholic Ladies School, singing and leading y'all into worship while Mary was in the other room.
She was
eavesdropping on him.
She was dead.
But he's smart. He's a preacher. Follow him. Wow. Tell him your stuff.
No_Kenneth.
Why do you have it backwards?
I forgot because I had two of them.
But can you prioritize it?
No, I don't even know how to do it.
Hey. You have to keep it that way?
Yeah.
Okay, tell them what you did. Go follow you.
Yeah. So right there. Jay Sanders, thanks, brother, buddy.
Focus on the message and not the people.
Yeah. So no_Kenneth.
All right.
Thank you.
This is Elder Ben. All right. Ben is consecrated. Now let me just warn you. He does not have any social media right now because he's on a consecration. So he's not interacting.
That's why he was able to do it.
So he was interacting with you guys right here. This is Ben. Go ahead, Ben. I guess you can't give him no contact info because I don't want them contacting you.
Yeah.
Home records.
Holiness.
Come on.
Yeah.
This is the Apostle.
Praise the Lord, everybody.
Give me his Periscope.
My Periscope is Apostle Mayberry. At Apostle Mayberry, I do your daily Don't Be a Ho Hope scopes to get you right, to get you holy, so that you can present your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable unto God. So follow me at Apostle Mayberry, and I'm going to get you together this week.
Okay. He said it's a hope scope.
Jesus.
Oh, Muncie. Okay. All right, now this is the minstrel. You know what you should be doing is you know what? You should be doing lessons on Periscope and stuff because the hour has come for you to multiply what's in you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Wow.
All right, so my Periscope information is at Keys Reese. So if you want to get in contact with me or learn just a little bit more about what to do in worship, and we're not just going to deal with going to the 6 and 4. We're going to deal with going to the 1 as well. So,
hey guys, can you stop? Wait, what's the 1?
Okay, that's the root of the key, and so we will deal with that. We will deal with that.
What is the root?
And so when we get
Nobody
in,
told me
come
that
on,
was
just
the
bring it
fruit or
on.
root.
So hit me at Keys Reese. 3 4 5. We got 5. 1 2 5. I mean,
I don't
1
know
2 3 4 5 6 7 8.
Did Mahel you know what the root was?
No, she didn't. Teach on today. Thank you.
Wait, so what's the 6?
The 6 is where we always go when you want minor. You want to go minor.
So what's the 5?
So if we go 1, that's 6 6 4.
No,
1.
no. All I know is 12 times 12 is 144. I don't know 1. I don't know no 5.
We can do it a little bit.
They say let the men sing.
He was here for prophetic support.
Yeah, I just supported everybody. I don't sing, but my social medias is Chris Williams II.
God bless you guys.
Hello, my name is John. X2_John. You can follow. I'll be on Periscope more often now. We'll be talking about, hey, Pastor Clack, 5:15. That's right, Jabril. But yeah, y'all can follow me. I'll be on there more often. And it's 2016 is going to be an amazing year. So look out for it. We need to sing. The people of God said we need to sing.
Okay, Darius, give me your info.
My info, I'm going to give you two really quick. Periscope, my father is really making me work more into that. I'm Darius Brown, simply my name on Periscope. At Darius Brown on Periscope.
They said we need to sing, so get a song.
Instagram, I do a lot of photography, particularly of what NY does. So y'all just need to get in and to see what we do. It's an inside view. It's Dardre Brown at Instagram. Dardre Brown at Instagram. So Dardre.
Tell them they getting a quick song.
They all asking for a song. I don't know. They pulling out a guitar. But I'm still trying to buy. Did I see John on the bus with John P. Key? No, you ain't never seen John with John P. Key. No. I have to be up at 5 too, but I mean, I don't know. Kenny got to teach a class.
They said John P. I will.
You play acoustic? I don't know nothing.
Ryan, you singing?
Is that the 6? Uh-oh.
That's the 6.
That's the 6.
This is 6. That sound like praise out on there. Find your parts.
4. 5. 6. Go 1. 1. 4. 5. This 6. 8. 8 is 1. 8 is 1. 8 is 1.
Who got a new song?
8 is 1.
Ryan got a song. Revival. We can do all three. Do the song of the bride first. No, do the song of the Lord.
I'm about to do the song of these nachos. Is this Open Eyes My Heart? Oh.
What's that? I don't know what that is. 4.
Come on.
Oh, that's the song of the 1. 6.
You about to get a little song.
Sing, man.
4.
Where's Kenny?
4.
Get out here.
Somebody do it. And I'm gonna do some bottom harmony. I need to get
Your glory like the rain over us. Over us. We are desperate for you. I have to find it. We are desperate for you.
Do the verse again. No, bring your Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
Same verse, John.
Let your presence fall.
Let your presence
again. Your glory like the rain over us. Sing it, Darius.
Sing, Darius.
I'm gonna do the chorus.
Find it.
'Cause we are desperate, desperate for you. Pronounce Lord. We are desperate, desperate for you. Three-part, we are desperate, desperate for you. We are so desperate.
desperate for you. Desperate for you. I ain't got the new song, because I barely get the new voice, man of God. Oh, what?
Come into this temple, have your way, oh God. Do what you will, do what
Get out.
you will, do what you will.
Get right there real quick.
Do what you will.
You about to eat something?
Come
I'm
into
eating
this
too.
temple, have your way,
Stand
oh
right there.
God. We say, do what you will, do what you will,
Ready?
do what you will, do what you
Do
will.
something.
Come into this temple, have your way, oh God. Do what you will, do what you will, do what you will,
Say something.
Hey, y'all.
Say, do what you will.
Do what you will, God. You can do what you will, do what you will.
I'm desperate for you. That's steering. See, that's called steering.
And I know it's in the room.
The man that got it steering.
I'm lost around you.
He walked out.
I gotta stay in the key section. You gotta stay in the key section.
Found your note.
Come on, Booker. Like that. Come on,
Won't stop till we get it.
Come on, everybody.
Won't stop till we get it. Won't stop till we get it. Won't stop till we get your heart. Won't stop till we get it.
Yes, sir.
Won't stop till we get your heart. Won't stop till we get it. Won't stop till we get your heart. Won't stop till we get it. Won't stop till we get your heart. Come, Lord, be my guest tonight. Hey, come,
He said, be
Lord,
my guest tonight.
my guest tonight. Come, Lord, be my guest. Come, Lord, be
I'm about to go be God's guest with these nachos. He's inviting me to the table.